love you. 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver. You're tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe.
Hey, morning. How are you?
Great. It's spring break in the Hunt house.
Ours as well. Well, some of the people in the house. Yeah.
Some of them. Who are the ones that didn't get it?
Yeah. The CSU students.
Oh,
He's going
the
back
college
today.
students.
Yeah, so he's headed back. He was last week, so he's headed up there today. Everybody
There
else
you
is
go.
off, except for me. Literally, everybody else in my household is either a student or works for a school district.
In education.
So everybody is off except for me. And they've reminded me about that a lot. It's been kind of a thing over the weekend.
Yeah. Enjoy that, Dad.
Yeah. Like, hey, we don't have to get up to. Oh, sorry. I'm like, oh, shut up. Yeah. So that was fun. How was St. Patrick's Day for you yesterday? Did you guys do anything?
You know, what did we do? We had church. And then my brother held an event, so we went out there to support him. And then my parents,
I saw that on social media.
my parents were like, we're going to go to get some St. Patty's Day food. And I said, where are you going? They said, the Black Eyed Pea. I said, you got to tell him Peter Boyle sent you.
Yep, exactly. No, see, it's my mom is 100% Irish. My dad's 50%. So underneath Christmas and Easter in my household was St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
that was
really
the
that
number
big.
3. Oh yes, I mean, as in baking things. It would not be unusual for us to have frosted cakes and or muffins. The house would be completely decorated.
Really?
And yes, and here's a phrase. The conversation that I had with some friends in middle school. It was, "Oh, hi guys, what'd you get for St. Patrick's Day?" What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah,
Oh, no, your St. Patrick's Day gift. What'd you get today? What? Yeah, what do you?
Yeah,
like,
no, that's.
I didn't realize it. I didn't realize until middle school. Not everybody got gifts for St. Patrick's Day.
Almost nobody does.
So I know. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I mean, I'm even part
That's how
Irish.
my family
None of
rolls.
that popped up.
Oh, it was huge. In fact, yesterday.
So what kind of gifts?
Oh, I mean, it would be things like, it could be, most of the time, I mean, again, it's nothing over the top. Sometimes it would be toys and games. Most of the time, clothes. Most of the time, you're filling whatever hole was in your wardrobe at that time. Sometimes an Irish thing.
St. Patty's Day belt.
Exactly. Well, I got like gorgeous Irish cable knit sweaters, some things like that.
Nice.
Sometimes if you needed, like newer backpacks, sometimes it was, shoes for soccer, the season that's coming up. And I got a phone call coming in here. We'll get the phone in a second. Hang on here.
All right, phones
we'll
are
talk to
already
them.
lighting up. About
Talk
St.
to them in a
Patty's
sec.
Day.
Yeah, and then also did corned beef and cabbage yesterday. That is something
nice.
that my wife and I do, and we do it in the crock pot. And there's a little bit of a secret in order to make it very, very sweet. In order to make sure, again, it's the corned beef itself is sweet, but I do it in a mixture of 1/2 beef consomme and the other half of a sweetened beer, normally a honey beer, and that's what it cooks in for 8 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I
so
need to get better connection with my Irish roots.
Oh,
here.
it is wonderful. And what you do is you basically julienne the onions, put them on the bottom of the crock pot. Then you put the carrots and the potatoes on top of the onions. And then you put the beef in, and then you put the liquid inside, and then you put the spices on the top. And the beef will sit just above the moisture. So it continues to cook, but it gets all the flavor from all the moisture that's inside. And the beer sends it over the top. If you really want to take it to the next level, that's the thing to do. It's really good. And then, of course, my mom brought over all the mixings. So then we had Irish coffee afterwards, which included actual little
That's
tiny...
why it was hard to get up this morning.
Yeah, little tiny cups and saucers that are meant for Irish coffee. And they're kind of portioned out. And they've got shamrocks and stuff all over them.
Irish coffee means there's alcohol in it, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And we did, yeah. Of course,
Right, we're going to Irish it up a little bit.
Genuine Irish whiskey had to be in there. And
Nice.
if you do it correctly, well, according to my father and his father, you actually have to add a little sugar to it, but you don't add regular sugar. Some pedestrians like to do brown sugar or maple syrup. No, you do it right.
That's for the Canadians.
Yeah, it's powdered sugar. You
Okay.
do about a teaspoon of powdered sugar, and that sits on the bottom, and you don't mix it. You put the powdered sugar on the bottom, and then you fill it with the coffee, and then it's the powdered sugar at the bottom, then a little bit of a half shot of whiskey, and then the coffee on top, and then you top with whipped cream. And that's the service. You don't mix it, though. Don't mix the three. Let them mingle naturally. Otherwise, not going to work right. That's the recipe. Trust me. Yeah.
That is intense, man.
Oh, yeah, it is.
That is a
But again,
serious level of commitment.
Yeah, again, my family. This was, we weren't playing around.
You don't celebrate this in your house?
No, I didn't understand this. I mean,
we
this
couldn't
was
even find anything green to wear.
God,
That's about this.
If I do not show up on St. Patrick's Day wearing something green, I am out of the will. It is that serious. Absolutely, that's serious. I still remember there was one day where I had something on, and when I was a kid, and something else in my wardrobe was orange. You do not wear orange on St. Patrick's Day. That is an offense of deep, deep, deep nature. And so I got in trouble for that one. I got a talking to. That was middle school.
Do you get into actually St. Patrick and honoring him and celebrating him? Or is it mostly focused on the Irish?
It's mostly the Irish tradition, because I understand the tradition of St. Patrick, but the issue for me is, again, being the reptile person, the whole idea of, I understand him going out there, he was spreading
snakes.
He didn't. There are no snakes in Ireland.
I know, exactly.
There aren't. It's the wrong climate. They don't have them there. It just doesn't exist. So I understand it's a metaphor. So we talk a little bit about it, but it's more the idea of celebrating the Irish heritage and where we came from and where.
Have you been to Ireland?
No, I want to, but last time I checked, it's expensive. They seem to charge a lot of money to doing the little plane thing over the and the problem that I've got is with the 4 kids. How do we just go, hey, mom and I taking off? Now they're getting to the age where we can do that. So maybe in the future.
Help me with this. Is there still conflict between the Irish and the British?
Yeah. I mean, not as harsh.
They're not like bombing each other.
No, not
anymore.
at all. No, that's done. But yeah, there's still conflict. They still don't necessarily like each other. And portions of Ireland are still part of the EU when the rest of rest of it left. So there is a point.
You don't like being overseen by the British.
No.
Here's a foreign power further away for you to be overseen.
They were part of the EU beforehand, and then when Britain exited, then Northern Ireland still sits and is technically part of the EU. So in order to go from Ireland, Northern Ireland, there are all sorts of issues, and it's kind of stupid.
We were watching Patriot games the other day, and that question came up, like, whatever happened to that conflict? Yeah,
that's basically it. It's kind of, and there's a long history behind it, but yeah, so that's kind of neat. But that was on the air a lot yesterday for St. Patrick's Day, which is kind of fun because then you get to talk about all the green beer and all the drinking that we do and all the and all the things, and so those are neat little things. And then it was also an AC/DC weekend on the classic rock station that I'm on, so I did all AC/DC stuff all weekend, which is really neat because they're a really unique band and there are lots of really fun stories behind. Because of course they go through 3 singers. Dave Evans doesn't show up for a gig, then Bon Scott shows up, then Bon Scott drinks himself to death, and then is replaced by Brian Johnson, which is really interesting. And the only reason it really went that way is that Bon Scott had seen Brian Johnson perform in his Geordie band earlier on, and had commented to the band how much he liked Brian on stage and how good he was. Funny thing is one of the stories where Bon Scott talks to AC/DC and says, oh, this guy's incredible, he can scream and everything else, and then in the encore he's writhing on the stage as if he's in pain and he's singing the entire time. It was one of the most badass things I've ever seen. And later on, when Brian Johnson joins the band, Angus and Malcolm share that story with him, and he goes, oh, dude, yeah, I remember that. I had appendicitis. I got diagnosed afterwards. Serious. I had surgery. I was in a lot of pain that night. So I think it's just very funny. Bon Scott was like, this guy was so committed. And he's like, no, serious pain.
That's how sick I was.
That's how sick I was. But I was still on stage. There's so many fun stories of that band. They're just so incredible.
Well, big show today on the Jeff and Bill show. We'll be talking. Did Donald Trump call for a bloodbath over the weekend? Did you see that? Did you see all the media reporting it? We're going to get to the real truth of that. And then he did call for Liz Cheney to be jailed. Do you think that was fair response for Donald Trump to call for Liz Cheney to be jailed? And then did you see this, that they're going to take away live reenactors from Bent's Fort down in southern Colorado because it can be not quite accurate, and they think it'd be better for people to have just, I guess, museum signs everywhere. 9:00 hour, Joshua Sharf from the Independence Insitute is going to join us to give an update on Israel. We're going to get to all your calls and all your texts. This is Colorado's premier news talk radio program in the morning with engaging discussions, critical analysis, and your calls, because this is where your voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We'll begin with the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. Happy Monday. 32 and mostly clear in Denver. Expecting sunny skies and highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. our top story. Aurora police say a suspect fleeing from the scene of a carjacking Sunday night caused a deadly crash. The initial armed carjacking was reported near the Stanley Marketplace at 23rd Avenue and Dallas Street, and responding officers spotted the stolen vehicle as it sped away. They tried to stop the suspect, but he ended up crashing into another vehicle near Dayton and 19th Avenue, killing one person. The suspect was arrested, and an investigation into the incident is ongoing. 2 people were found dead in a Denver hotel shelter Saturday night, and police are investigating the case as a homicide. The victims were described as a man and a woman, and the hotel shelter on North Quebec Street where they were found is reportedly part of Mayor Johnston's House 1,000 initiative. Authorities say the mayor is aware of the situation. There's no word yet on any suspects or arrests, and the victims' identities haven't been released yet.
Remember when I said that these were going to be a little bit of an echo? These hotels were going to be hellholes. 4,000 911 calls just in the first 100 days at these places.
Like that, yeah. You know, like we should be shocked by that. No, it's amazing. You're exactly right. Hey, a high-profile trial of a deadly Colorado crash begins today. A semi-truck driver is charged with killing a family of 5 in Weld County, including a 3-month-old baby. They were hit from behind on I-25 while heading back to Wyoming almost 2 years ago. Prosecutors say Jesus Puebla was going 76 miles an hour when traffic had slowed to a crawl, but he didn't brake and try to avoid hitting the SUV. He also didn't have insurance. The great uncle of the victims, Thomas Bueno, wants accountability.
Every week that goes by, it was just like, why? Why does it take so long?
And as Jeff mentioned, a lot of backlash from the left over the former President Trump using the word bloodbath. Here's the entire clip and the context.
Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us now. We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
He was talking about the auto industry in China building in Mexico. It'll be a bloodbath for the auto industry. Probably should have said auto industry. Last week, you heard Chuck Schumer disrespecting Israel and Bibi and Netanyahu. Over the weekend, Netanyahu had a chance to set the record straight with Schumer.
We're not obstructing peace. We're ensuring that we don't have a catastrophic suicidal move. And second, it's not just me. It's the vast majority of Israelis. So if you want to take up the issue with the vast majority of Israelis, say so. Say you're against the vast majority of the people of Israel. And don't try to personalize it, because it's not a personal thing. I'm leading the policy that most Israelis think is essential for our survival and our future.
Russian President Vladimir Putin will remain in power for another 6 years. What a surprise. Early quote unquote election, air quotes, election results show Putin winning 88% of the vote. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. CSU and CU officially in the NCAA tournament bracket. They're in what's called the First Four in Dayton, Ohio. CSU takes on Virginia tomorrow, and CU faces Boise State on Wednesday. If they win, they advance to the first round Thursday and Friday March Madness. CU women, the 5th seed in the women's NCAA tournament. The Mavericks end the Nuggets 5-game losing streak, 107-105. Avs go for 7 straight wins at St. Louis tomorrow. 25 in Boulder, 29 in Parker, 31 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, we're off and running this morning. Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show, covering the hottest news, the most important analysis facing this state. You're not going to get this perspective from the mainstream media. You just won't. Case in point, what happened over the weekend, Donald Trump at a rally made some statements about the auto industry, and here's what the left ran with on all their media platforms. I mean, literally all their media platforms. This was the quote they used.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
So you get Biden's campaign pushing that out, NBC, Rolling Stone, all that stuff. They even went on the Sunday shows to talk about this.
I mean, what I heard was a continuation of the same rhetoric, the same endorsement of political violence that we've seen from Donald Trump for years, as you pointed out. It goes even farther back, right? This is the same guy who, after Nazis marched on Charlottesville and killed a woman, said there were very fine people on both sides. This is the same guy who, in 2020, told the Proud Boys, a white supremacist group, to stand back and stand by. And now every single day on the stump, he is championing and praising the insurrectionists who he encouraged to violently storm the Capitol in an attempt to overthrow our democracy. So it's not simply one comment. This is exactly who Donald Trump is, and this is exactly the threat that he poses to our democracy every single day.
So Donald Trump calls for a bloodbath. This is a continuation of violent rhetoric that's going to threaten our democracy. That was a spokesperson from the Biden campaign. Thank God we have X. Seriously.
I don't know.
Twitter. Yes, because this was shut down pretty quickly by people that were actually able to show the context around it.
You know, Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories.
So he's talking about the auto industry and tariffs, and yes, 100%.
Well, and the only thing is,
100%.
here's the thing is, what I hear in that clip is he talks at the beginning about the auto industry, and then he transitions. The second time he says it, he transitions into a bloodbath for the whole country.
Right. And then he actually goes back to talking about the auto industry.
Yeah, but the auto industry is different than the whole country. Again, I'm not agreeing with the liberals running around with their hair on fire, because I think there are much, much deeper things wrong with Trump's speech over the weekend that they are ignoring. But then again, That's the media. I have very low expectations of their ability to even be journalists. So they missed the entire the subtext of the speech that was going on. But I can see why they're being alarmed, and I think they are being alarmist, and I think they're blowing this way out of proportion. But he does say auto industry and then goes into the entire country. He does expand it, and the country isn't the auto industry. And so there is a point there where he's trying to expand the bloodbath. He does in the speech.
He's not. He goes back to talking about cars.
I know that, but why does he say country then? Why does he not
because
focus
it's going
on
to be bad for the country with all of these. If you have China building auto building plants right outside Mexico, it is going to be a economic bloodbath.
Why? What's going to happen? What's the negative?
Because we're not
America?
Building those cars in America. That's Donald Trump's perspective.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on. You can get into tariffs. You can have that whole conversation. But the point being here that he's not calling for violence, political violence. That's not the point.
Oh, I'd agree. Yeah, 110%. He's not calling for political violence.
And that's exactly what the Biden campaign and
absolutely.
all the media jumped at.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Completely alarmist. Complete hair on fire stupidity. As 110% on the left. However, he does expand it from auto industry into the country. And the issue being, if we do have China building cars in Mexico, the harm is what? Because last time I checked, there isn't a single Chinese auto manufacturer that is allowed into the American market. Not a single one. So the harm is what? That's what I can't figure out. He's mad that BYD is going to be building a plant in Mexico. We don't allow them to import their cars. So it's what? His
message, as it was back in 2016, is we're going to return manufacturing back to the United States.
See, that's not his message. And that's where...
That is totally what his economic message
not
is.
At all.
And that's why he's going to do 100% tariff on any of these cars coming in.
Yeah, which is stupid. And that shows that he doesn't understand economics. It's phenomenally stupid. And there are ways to get around it that have already been agreed on, that he would have to redo not only legislation, but some of the agreements he has with other countries, if he even plans on doing that, because there are workarounds. And that's part of it. The issue that he's doing is be scared. He just wants you to be afraid. That's that whole thing. The whole thing about the auto industry and the bloodbath, it's about being afraid. He wants you, the voter, to be scared that America is under siege, that we are under attack, that if we don't elect him, that everything's going to fall apart. In that speech, he goes on further and talks about how we'll never have another election if he's not reelected. That is stupid on its face. But he wants you to be afraid. And all the information he says there about the Chinese car manufacturers, while technically true, his conclusions are completely bogus. Because again, BYD is not allowed to sell in America. They would have to meet our emissions. They would have to meet our safety standards. They don't. So even if they manufacture 1 trillion cars in Mexico, none of them are coming into America. His promise of 100% tariff on them is BS at its face because they have no access to the market. It is stupid. The other part is the idea that we're building cars in Mexico. Last time I checked, GM and Chrysler are the number 2 builders in Mexico. Those are American.
This is all the result of NAFTA. And you have these
companies.
massive plants right across the border that build these then bring them in.
Yeah, for cost and efficiency. Yeah, just like we have companies that move from, like we have Tesla going from California to Texas. Yeah,
sure.
For economic efficiency. We're just mad that the economic efficiency is taking place south of the border, which there is some issues there that it actually increases. If you look at in and around those factories that have been built, it actually increases standard of living in that area. And in my opinion, where I sit, if you want this flood of illegal immigrants and you want these people to stop coming across the border, both either claiming asylum or doing it illegally, maybe give them better jobs where they are and they stay there. And they've seen that. They've seen some of the migrants that have been coming north, getting into those towns where these factories have been built, and they can find jobs that pay them well. Pay them 3 times what they can make at home. There in Mexico, they can still send money back. That's
Bill,
the solution.
I will take a policy discussion with you over tariffs and development in Mexico and plants and China and all that stuff any day. Okay. But what the media did, and to your credit, I'll give you this. What the media did was gin up a fake story in order to hammer a political opponent that they don't like.
I
that
disagree.
was the point of the Rolling Stone headline, NBC headline, CBS. This is why nobody trusts the media anymore.
I disagree with Gin Up. I do believe they amplified it and they focused on it incorrectly. However, to their credit, and the part of the credit we have to give them is Trump in that speech said bloodbath for the rest of the country. He did wrap in the country. I understand that he's speaking specifically about the auto industry, but he does diverge when he says country.
But he's not calling for political violence.
No, he's
Listen to this. This is Biden spokesperson on the CBS shows yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, what I heard was a continuation of the same rhetoric, the same endorsement of political violence that we've seen from Donald Trump for years.
That had nothing to do with political violence.
I agree.
Nothing to do with it. And they ran with it and tried to push this as if Donald Trump is going to incite, mass violence if he's not elected, which was not the speech at all.
No, but he did advocate arresting his political enemies this weekend.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah, that was part of it. So again, this is where, in my opinion, the liberal media fell apart. They ran around, they grabbed the wrong story, they conflated the things that he was saying, and they hurt their reputation. Because, again, I'm not a part of either political party. I am politically homeless, and I am part of that group that sits in the big unaffiliated swath of America. We are not homogenous, but we've got some distrust, and we've got some questions that are fairly universal, and we distrust both sides of the media, in part because of stuff like this, and we have it on both sides. I mean, I can give you a long list of things through conservative media, even that were done this weekend, that were completely and totally bogus. And I can give you a long list of stuff on the left that were completely and totally bogus. They do this a lot, and they conflate these issues. And yes, it was funny to see liberal media run around and go, oh my God, he's bloodshed this and bloodshed. And I'm like, oh, you idiots. And the part that made me frustrated is because they're missing the message. His core message in that speech is you have to be scared. You need to be scared. You should be scared of America and scared of where you are, and I'm the only one that can save it. That's his message. That should have been the focus of the reporting. But again, I ask for actual journalists.
Pretty much every politician I know that runs for office makes that argument.
Not in the same way.
I don't know. I want to get to your calls on this. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. I was thanking God for X, because if we had just let this run the way it had traditionally run in America, every mainstream media outlet reporting this, Donald Trump, continuation of political violence, you would have had that story carried. It would have been weeks before that was refuted, if ever. This was a classic example of that old line that a lie can get around the world twice before the truth even gets started. But at least you had X that was able to push back pretty quickly. ALX on X pushing back. Community Notes now up clarifying on this. But this is why nobody trusts the media anymore. You need this type of independent journalism that that X provides to cut through it.
Not
100%.
No.
Yes.
And I would refer you to Matt Tiabi and his recent conversation about X that happened recently, and how he is disappointed and said that Musk is nothing like the free speech absolutist that he claims to be. And part of that he's saying is he's restricting access for reporters that he doesn't like. And so, again, X is not free speech.
Not restricting access. He's just not fulfilling the full terms of paying them.
If you have Substack, he doesn't. You don't get to promote your stuff on Twitter if you have a Substack account. He doesn't like that. So that's part of it. That's why Tiabi's mad at him. I can give Elon credit for doing this and coming with community notes. The idea that he is either the alternative or the beacon of truth is so far, because just recently last week he amplified the incorrect story about cannibalism going on in Haiti. It has been disproven. It's not happening. And the videos that were used,
weird videos.
Well, I know, but those
chewing on a leg.
Guess what though? There are ways through the interwebs to verify not only pictures but videos. There are websites that do that. That's what I was trained to do. It's not that difficult. And it's able to do backward searches. And if you backward search those, they're from Nigeria and other countries. They're not from Haiti, and they're years old. So it is a false narrative. But Elon Musk amplified that false narrative last week. So again, I give him credit for this. But assuming that Twitter is the arbiter of either free speech of truth is
it's
not correct.
necessary,
Not
though.
even
It's
close.
absolutely necessary, and you saw it this
It's a
weekend.
tool. It
is a tool.
it is
but
a tool.
I'm
and it
not.
can be
I'm not
there,
making the
but-
argument that's perfect.
No. It's,
But
and
my
is it
God,
is it a credible media source? No, not in the least.
When you
Not in the
got
least.
CBS,
But, yeah.
NBC, they're not credible at all. All right, give us your calls and texts. Be a part of the conversation. 303-696-1971. Hey, your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service and valuable advice and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress, hassle out of selling your home and while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and Empower Home team today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll get to your calls and text. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. US President Joe Biden and his predecessor Donald Trump took aim at each other in speeches delivered over the weekend as the two men face off in a rematch for the White House. Our Washington correspondent Jagriti Dave has more.
One candidate is too old and mentally unfit to be president. The other is me. This is what Joe Biden said about his Republican rival, recent errors on the campaign trail, even as he himself is trying to bat away questions about his own age and mental proficiency. Donald Trump, meanwhile, called Joe Biden a stupid president. He made dark predictions about the end of meaningful elections if he lost the race in November. And he also attacked certain migrants, saying that they're not people, in my opinion, and later called them animals. The Trump campaign said that the former president's comments were taken out of context and that he was merely commenting on the downfall of the American car industry under the Biden administration.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine has declared a state of emergency after days of severe weather left a trail of destruction. The governor also activated the Ohio National Guard to help officials with the recovery operations. 3 people died in Logan County from severe storms, which first arrived Thursday. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
All right, we're talking, did Donald Trump call for a bloodbath if he wasn't elected? That's what you would think if you just listened to the lamestream media.
I mean, what I heard was a continuation of the same rhetoric, the same endorsement of political violence that we've seen from Donald Trump.
That was the spokesperson from the Biden campaign on MSNBC over the weekend. That was not the context at all. Here's the full context of the speech.
You know, Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories.
So that's the context in which the actual statement took place. You would not know that from the headlines of the mainstream media, everyone from Rolling Stone to CBS to MSNBC to CNN. Essentially, Donald Trump calls for a bloodbath if he's not elected. And Bill and I disagree a little bit on this, but this is where I'm very grateful for X, because if this was 20 years ago, the only place you would get actual analysis of what happened would be conservative talk radio. Within hours, within minutes of those headlines going up on the mainstream by the mainstream media, you had responses, you had people showing the full context of the clips, and now you have community notes. So X at least creates an environment right now where discussion and dialogue comes back to what the actual truth is, as opposed to relying upon a handful of outlets that are clearly biased in the way they report the news. And I'm grateful that we have that type of pushback. Dwayne, we're going to get to you in just a second. Let's check in on, speaking of good news, let's check in on with Blake Olson. Tell us what you're working on, Blake.
Hey, Jeff, a man carjacks someone in Aurora. He flees and then ends up killing someone in an automobile crash. Really sad story. And 2 people found dead in one of Mayor Johnston's House 1,000 hotels. No surprise there. That and much more coming up at the top of the hour.
Great. Thanks so much, Blake. Let's get to your calls. Dwayne and Divide. Dwayne, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning. Did you get out of the snow yet?
Oh, no, sir. No, I've still got 36 inches after the weekend melt. My plow sat there, looked at it, went, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah, I tried to plow ours too. We're out in Elbert County, and it just sunk right into the kind of mud and snow and got high centered. And we're just gonna have to melt this to get out.
I got to get Cletus to come on over with the skid steer to see if he can dig me out later on today. One thing about the guy speaking on MSNBC about the bloodbath and everybody getting 50 cents for saying it because it was 2 words. At least 33 people heard it, which is the best thing about that comment.
That's good. Good job. That's nice job.
You know, I mean, from there. And I mean, you know, we've never had any hyperbole from any politician. Oh, wait, what was that old Sleepy Joe said? They're going to put you back in chains when he was running in office. Nobody remembers that one where it was like, back in chains. And it's like, really? Is it snow season back there too?
Yeah.
Dwayne, I want to get your response to this real quick. This is another reason why I love X, because someone went through and collected all the leftist reporters using the same term bloodbath and put it together in a video. Listen to this.
But as Politico.com reports tonight on the, quote, bloodbath at the RNC, Headlines calling it a, quote, bloodbath. Be a bloodbath. Not only is it going to be a bloodbath, but after they leave New Hampshire, it's a bloodbath on her home turf. That's really tough. Trump has left a lot of corpses in his wake. I mean, we can count the bodies as part of the, quote, MAGA drive to take over Maricopa County. And the headline refers to it as an impending bloodbath. Columnist Charles Blow has a new piece for the New York Times entitled A Biden Bloodbath.
2018 midterms, you can bet that they 100% are fearing a slaughter. In fact, the word bloodbath and massacre come up frequently.
The Republican Party will be destroyed. It's going to be a bloodbath.
There's going to be a bloodbath one way or the other.
Bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
It's been a bloodbath there, shaping up to be a bloodbath.
Head off a bloodbath in next year's crucial midterm.
Off-year elections are often a bloodbath.
This week's bloodbath for Democrats, a bloodbath at the ballot box.
There could be a Republican bloodbath.
They'll talk about a bloodbath.
It's a bloodbath. I have to talk about you. And
It's going to be a bloodbath all day long. Is in for a bloodbath.
Hasn't been a bloodbath on the way down.
So that's all the reporters and pundits on MSNBC, CNN, NBC, CBS
was nice.
utilizing the same word and phrase, because what you got after Donald Trump made the statement and then they all ran out there and said he's calling for political violence, as everyone showed the context of the speech. By the way, can I just explain this to y'all as a political strategist? If you're ever having to explain you're losing as a politician, you never want to be in that position. So Donald Trump isn't totally off the hook here. It wasn't the best statement to make. Obviously, when your opponents are trying to make the case that everything you do is going to result in violence, be very careful in what you're saying. With that said, with that caveat, once it was proven that the context was perfectly acceptable and it had to do with tariffs and the auto industry, well, then they went out there and said, well, bloodbath is not a great term. It's not a good term. And they were able to prove very quickly that that the left uses this all the time. Dwayne, what did you think of that audio?
Well, by hearing Nancy Pelosi talk about a bloodbath, maybe she's using it to stay, totally youthful by using that from the homeless people in San Francisco. God knows what. Now, the big question is, what is George Soros going to do when buys 225 radio and TV stations? That's a story that's just breaking now.
Wow.
And of course, he would never have any propaganda on his stations. No. That's a man who would split it right down the middle and just be the kind of savior that we have. Elon Musk isn't perfect, but at least it's an African-American business I can support, and I want to do the best I can with that. And I mean, is everything perfect? No, not at all. But with Bill right now with this Irish coffee in him, was it Colombian coffee with Peruvian flakes, Bill? Because you're really wound up today.
No, actually, I'm somewhat subdued today. Honestly, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. It's been awful all weekend. So I'm actually personally, rather than being on 10, I'm running somewhere around 7.5 right now. Honestly. So yeah,
well, you sound like a chainsaw across the hood of a Ferrari. You guys are on fire this morning. I really want to try and call midweek.
Compliment, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to call midweek, but when you start some of these subjects, there's only so much I can do, and I can't fire a shotgun. It's before 7 o'clock.
That is true.
All right,
Dwayne,
guys,
I appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
That was great.
Mary, we'll get to you in just a second. Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? It's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair can grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. We'll get to Mary in just a second. And you choose the news up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, it's your favorite segment of the show. You choose the news.
Yes, this is for the only people that love it. That would be my mom and my wife. So, hello, good morning. Yes, it is that time of the morning to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You choose the news. We have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really stupid headlines to play this fake radio news game. Why? Because, well, the people in charge have no idea we are doing it. So we'd appreciate it if you do not share it with them. And that includes you, Mr. Blake Olson, who is joining us from the newsroom. We will have Blake choose our third story this morning. And just remember, this is absolutely not sponsored by Roll Nut Shelves. They're a reputable company that wants to be far, far away from this frivolity. Alrighty, sir. Here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, Canadian police suggest the Wisner plan. Headline number 2, a perfect government solution. Headline number 3, this is why we shouldn't let them make the rules. And headline number 4, murder increase in U.S. cities. Choose carefully.
Oh, those are great, Bill.
Thank you.
Let's
I
go with the Wisner solution.
Yes, Canadian police suggest the Wisner plan. Toronto police have said maybe if you want to prevent your car from being stolen, just give them the keys. Canadian police, Toronto police. Yep. Toronto police recently said, I know you're concerned that all these car thieves have been happening in and around the city, and these people are breaking into your homes in order to steal the keys and then your car. So we suggest you just leave the keys by the front door. Make it easy for the thieves. Because think about them, their problems. They are going through so many difficulties having to break into your place, find the keys. If you would just leave a map, maybe some treats outside and maybe some beverages or something, because, consider the criminal. Consider what they're going through.
Why don't we just give them a map and keys to prison?
Exactly.
Just go put yourself in.
Yeah, I just love the idea that when confronted this, the police idea is, well, have you tried giving them the keys? Excuse me. I don't think you understand the issue I have here. I don't want them to have my car in the first place. Maybe we need to go back to the beginning of the conversation. Okay, fine.
Unbelievable.
All righty. Second choice this morning, sir. Perfect government solution, or this is why we shouldn't let them make the rules, or murder increase in U.S. cities.
I'm always interested in the perfect government solution.
This is a perfect government solution, and unfortunately, we had to travel to Sedona. For this one, the Sedona City Council recently found a solution to housing. They voted 6-1, and the problem is that government workers in Sedona are having a problem finding affordable housing. They can't find houses they can afford based on their salary.
Yeah.
So the Sedona City Council leapt into action and said, let's make it legal for them to sleep in the cars.
Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is, rather than saying, hey, let's look at the housing problem, let's talk about the solutions for housing, their solution is cars.
Just sleep there.
They want to designate certain city lots as okay to sleep in your car in, as if that's not going to attract the drug dealers to the crime. Because, if you put them all in one place.
We tried that with hotels here in Denver.
Exactly. And that ended real well recently. So, yeah, I just looked at the idea of that the solution is, can we let them sleep in the cars?
Or just build a George Costanza desk bed under your desk.
Exactly. That's basically it. It is just ridiculous. Alrighty. Blake Olson joining us for our final choice today. All right, Mr. Olson. Your choice is, this is why we shouldn't let them make the rules, or murder increase in U.S. cities.
I'm sick of murder. Let's go with the rules.
Alrighty. This is why we shouldn't let them make the rules. And unfortunately, I'm getting some feedback from Blake, so I'm going to turn down his microphone at this time. Not a personal thing. But this is why we should not let those lawmakers make the rules sometimes. In Texas, they have declared that porn is now illegal. Yes, you cannot see anybody doing the Humpty Hump. But unfortunately, they didn't quite understand how the interwebs work. Recently, Texas legislature banned Pornhub and access through any system, internet system in Texas, to have anything that is naughty, naughty, naughty. Unfortunately, nobody told them about VPNs. Which are virtual private networks, basically. You're allowed to say that you're in somewhere else. So after they announced this rule, VPN searches in Texas went up 1,700%.
I bet they did.
Yes, they did.
I think it's just age verifications, right? Isn't that what the actual rule is?
Yeah.
You just got to be, and then Pornhub was like, no.
Because what we know is that online, nobody ever lies about how old they
Right,
are.
I know.
That's never happened. Everybody's totally truthful. Everything that goes on online, we're all so truthful and so honest. And I digress. That is it. That is the end of You Choose the News. Thanks for joining us for this frivolity this morning. And remember, do not tell anybody in charge, because they have no idea we are doing it. But also, we are proudly sponsored by... No, we're not. I can't do that. I was going to say we were sponsored by Roll 'Em Out Shells, but we're not. They've told me to keep it far away from this particular portion of the broadcast. They're huge supporters of 710 KNUS and the Jeff and Bill Show. They will come to your home for free with an estimate, organizing your kitchen and bath. RollEmOutShelves.com. Wonderful mother-son team. Just don't tell them about what we're doing here, because it's going to go badly, and they don't like this. So talk about 710 KNUS, and they'll hook you up. But yeah, and they're going to Jeff's house. All right, back to you, sir.
They are tomorrow, actually. We're going to have
excellent.
Joyce and Brent Oliver with us.
Do not tell them about You Choosing It.
7:00 hour. Donald Trump calls for Liz Cheney and members of the January 6th committee and commission to be imprisoned. Is he right to do so? We'll take your calls and more. This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
We are off and running. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It's the Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe.
Morning.
Bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes to kickstart your day. Denver's finally thawing out after last week's storm, and we are gearing up for another day of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and your calls. That's what matters here, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We're going to change topics a little bit from Donald Trump and bloodbath comment and the media freaking out about that. And thank God for having X that was quickly able to address that issue. We're going to get into Liz Cheney and Donald Trump calling for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's check in with Mary in Wyoming. Good morning, Mary. You've been very patient. Thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning. One of the things, like I said, I've been kind of laughing my you-know-what off regarding Donald Trump and this bloodbath thing. What a great way to get everyone conversation. I think he's a genius. He has a very small budget now because of all the money he's spending on his legal problems. Yeah. And yet Biden has a huge one. And look how he has all the nationals and everybody talking to him. It's all free.
Yeah. Yeah, he is a genius when it comes to earned media. So you have two different types of media. You have paid media and you have earned media. Paid media is when you go out there and you buy commercial spots, and then earned media is when you get all the media to talk about you
and talk about the value of both, how they're different.
Yeah, that's a good question. Paid media, you're introducing yourself to people that aren't even thinking about you, talking about you, and if you're not getting earned media, it gets you in front of people, but you're going to have to pay for it. So there's value to it, but you're a media expert, Bill. I think earned media is probably a lot more valuable than paid media.
Way more. Almost 10 times as valuable as paid media, because paid media is viewed as exactly what it is, advertising and public relations, where earned media is getting the media to talk about you and giving you significance based on a subject, whether it be positive or negative, but it is worth about 10 times the value. A 30-second advertisement, 30 seconds on earned media is worth 10 times what you pay for that ad.
Wow. I did not know that.
Oh,
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so, Bill, would you think that this would be good earned media for Donald Trump? Do you agree with Mary in that sense?
Yeah, I do. I think this is very, very good earned media for Donald Trump, because with the liberal media running around with their hair on fire, they're only talking to people that already weren't going to vote for Donald Trump. And anybody that is in that squishy middle that is going back and forth will hear the difference in what Don was saying. And I agree. I do think it's bad that he wrapped in country for the entire country in there. And I do think that should have been where the liberal media should have jumped on rather than the bloodbath. They should have wrapped it in with the entire country, but they're not that smart. So thank you. Appreciate that, guys. But yeah, it's very clever. And his own supporters love him going out there and being the puncher, saying the tough stuff. So this works on two levels for him. I think this is a media tempest that does nothing but give Donald Trump more credit.
So what was interesting in 2016 was that the media recognized that Donald Trump was an absolute rating sensation. And they covered everything. They would just, if you don't remember this, they'd put his entire rallies. They would stop everything on like NBC and MSNBC and CNN and just let him run his rallies for 2 hours. And people would tune in to watch because it was so interesting and compelling. And then after 16, they go, well, it seems that might be helping Donald Trump. So we're not going to do that. So in 20, they wouldn't cover him. I think in between 16 and 20, Donald Trump was great for the ratings too. That you got all these fights and Jim Acosta and Donald Trump going back and forth. And it was like literally watching like a UFC fight. So people would watch it and enjoy it and that type of thing. And then in 20, they just decided to roll that back because they didn't want to get Donald Trump elected again. What do you think is going to happen this year? Mary, I'm going to ask you this question first. What do you think is going to happen this year? Do you think they're going to continue to cover Donald Trump as much? Or are they going to try to keep him out of the news so that he doesn't win re-election?
Not at all. Why do you think, to me, he's also holding off announcing his VP? That's going to be another firestorm when that handles. Also, you're getting ready to talk about Liz Cheney.
Yes.
He's bringing that up right now. Why? Would it be interesting if, RFJ used Liz Cheney as his VP?
Yeah, I don't think RFK would do that.
You don't think so?
I don't think he is a fan of. Is he a fan of Liz Cheney? I don't know.
I don't think Liz would take it. I don't think. Yeah.
I think
what
she
else
wants
is
to be
she
president
doing
herself, because
What else is
she's
she doing
announced
at
that
this
she
point?
wanted.
But
That's my point. And she's been out of the news.
Not necessarily. She did her book recently. She's going to end up as a commentator, rolling into this election.
Mike Pence.
Going in and jumping in with RFK is, I mean, unless she wanted to practice self-immolation, because then she becomes persona non grata for both parties. Nobody's going to bring her on because she's. I mean, can we remember the what happened to Ross Perot's running mate? I mean, it's just any one of them. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many of them that just become irrelevant. I don't think it's a step forward for her. Now, if she wants to be really mad, if it's a grievance, yeah. If she just wants to get out there just so she can throw punches at Donald Trump for months and months and months, okay, then I can see that. Yeah.
Well, no, I was looking at, because they're bringing up the January 6th. That trial is getting ready to come up. And what I was thinking is that it was one of the ways, because there's supposed to be a lot more evidence showing that it was more of a demonstration. There was a small group that did do the what do you want to yeah. But it was not the majority were the old folks going through the red ropes. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's going to be a lot of that, which meant Liz Cheney kept that information out.
Do you agree with Donald Trump? We're talking with Mary, by the way, from Wyoming. Mary, do you agree with Donald Trump saying he's going to pardon those convicted for January 6th activities?
Yeah, I see. That's where I struggle with you and Billy, and how he always takes all the words. It's like all those that did the riot, they should not get a pardon.
Mm-hmm.
Those that are being accused of walking through the ropes and who were invited in. There's a lot more to that story that has not been told.
Yeah,
Mary, and when I get frustrated, those people should not be prosecuted, and they should definitely get a pardon.
Mary from Wyoming, thanks so much for the call. We're going to get to Blake Olson in the news here in just a second, but this is where we're going to go this hour. Trump calls for Liz Cheney to be, and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed. Former President Donald Trump, and this is from Mediaite, is directly calling for the imprisonment of 9 of his political opponents, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. In a post on his Truth Social platform Sunday, Trump shared an article from John Solomon, which alleged that the January 6th committee withheld critical evidence in its probe by not releasing the testimony of a Secret Service agent who drove Trump's limo on January 6th. The driver notably disputed the account of former White House staffer Cassidy Hutchinson, who claimed Trump tried to grab the steering wheel of the limo in an effort to redirect it to the Capitol. Do you remember that headline, that sensational story?
Yeah.
In his just released testimony, the Secret Service agent said, "I did not see Trump reach. He never grabbed the steering wheel. I didn't see him, lunge to try to get in the front seat at all. What stood out was the irritation in his voice more than his physical presence." And the January 6th committee had an agreement with the Secret Service to avoid disclosing privacy information for official use only information, intelligence and law enforcement sensitive records, and raw intelligence information from 12 interviews it conducted. However, some on the right have argued that the real reason the interview with the unnamed driver never saw the light of day is because it contradicted Hutchinson's testimony. Former President Trump not only does not buy the committee's explanation, he thinks Cheney and its 8 other members should be thrown in jail. She should go to jail along with the rest of the unselect committee, Trump wrote. Do you agree with this? Do you agree with Donald Trump that Liz Cheney and the rest of the unselect committee should go to jail? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. Yes, I say yes. 31 and mostly clear in Denver, expecting sunny skies and highs in the upper 50s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, 2 people were found dead, a man and a woman, in a Denver hotel shelter Saturday night. Police investigating the case as a homicide, and the hotel shelter on North Quebec Street where they were found is reportedly part of Mayor Johnston's House 1000 initiative. Authorities say the mayor is aware of the situation. There's no word yet on any suspects or arrests, and the victims' identities have not been released. Aurora police say a suspect fleeing from the scene of a carjacking Sunday night caused a deadly crash. The initial armed carjacking was reported near Stanley Marketplace at 23rd Avenue and Dallas Street, and responding officers spotted the stolen vehicle as it sped away. They tried to stop the suspect, but he ended up crashing into another vehicle near Dayton and 19th Avenue, killing one person. The suspect was arrested, and an investigation into the incident is ongoing. A man is recovering in the hospital after he was shot while walking his dogs in Aurora. It happened earlier this month near a condo building on Wyoming Place, and the victim says he was shot during an argument between him and Jonathan Nelson, who was arrested and charged with first-degree assault. A high-profile trial of a deadly Colorado crash begins today. A semi-truck driver is charged with killing a family of 5 in Weld County, including a 3-month-old baby. They were hit from behind on I-25 while heading back to Wyoming almost 2 years ago. Prosecutors say that Jesus Puebla was going 76 miles an hour when traffic slowed to a crawl, but he didn't brake and try to avoid hitting the SUV. He also did not have insurance. A lot of backlash, of course, from the left and the mainstream media over former President Trump using the word bloodbath. He was talking about the auto industry and China building in Mexico and the auto industry growing in Mexico, and no tariffs. It'll be a bloodbath for the auto industry, is what Trump was saying. Last week, you heard Chuck Schumer disrespecting Israel and Bibi and Netanyahu. Over the weekend, Netanyahu had a chance to set the record straight with Schumer, and Florida Republican Byron Donalds says the case is clear with Democrats.
The Democrat Party supports Hamas. They do not want to see an end to Hamas. They are more concerned about Israel removing Hamas from Gaza than actually supporting Israel in that position. They would prefer to have a deal with the Iranians. They would prefer to let the Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas continue to operate regardless of the security threat to Israel.
Russian President Vladimir Putin will remain in power for another 6 years. No surprise. Early air quotes now election air quotes results show that Putin is winning 88% of the vote. CSU and CU officially in the NCAA tournament bracket. They're in what is called the first 4 in Dayton. So CSU takes on Virginia tomorrow, and CSU faces Boise State on Wednesday. If they win, they advance to the first round of the tournament Thursday and Friday. And the CU women, they are the 5th seed in the upcoming tournament. 26 in Louisville, 27 in Castle Pines, 31 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on this Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
January 6th committee to be jailed. Bill, I'm glad he's doing it.
Really?
Absolutely.
What? Oh, why?
Are you ready for this?
Okay, hang on a sec. Deep breath, deep breath. Okay.
Do you remember our conversation about mutually assured destruction?
Yeah.
So
it's kind of the show.
That was good.
Thank you.
That was good. So how do you stop the left from engaging in lawfare against their political opponents?
Throw them all in jail?
You have to make it equally hard on them. So what we've seen happen in the last few years is the left use every possible angle, legal angle, 99 indictments, any way they possibly can, disbar Donald Trump's attorneys. They have used law not to seek justice, but to go after their political opponents. And I think the only way you can stop the left from doing this and continuing to destroy our country is to show them that they are equally, there's an equal chance in which they could end up in prison too.
Here's the thing, and this is what I need. I need some edification about. I need you to help me with this one.
Yeah.
Is when I hear that, I'm hearing it from a position of the conclusion is before the prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
We have come to the conclusion that all of this stuff is bogus. And so now we're mad that liberals are taking people to court. And so the issue for me would be if you showed up in court with all of these bogus accusations, but so far I haven't seen the bogus accusations. And in the case of Trump, we have several grand juries, which are regular people that have voted to indict. So it's not like, and it's very difficult for the DOJ to, again, I understand the mechanism inside the grand jury, but again, those are average citizens and they're put together. So that's the problem I have, is this supposition with the purity and greatness of Donald Trump that he couldn't possibly have ever done anything wrong. And, and before we talk about laws and lawsuits and going after every angle to exploit something politically and to get your way, we probably should go back to the lawsuits that were filed before January 6th. We probably should talk about all the lawsuits that were filed about the election, some of which, majority of which, have been thrown out for being completely and totally untrue. Rudy Giuliani is on the hook for $145 million for lies he told about 2 election workers in Georgia. Lies. So before we make the broad claim that it is the left that is doing this lawfare and engaging in these wrong-headed legal actions, we may want to turn around and smell ourselves, smell the Republican Party a little bit too, because it seems to me that where I sit, both sides are doing this to a certain point. Both sides are engaging in this and are using the legal system in order to get what they want.
I don't see the right using it in the same way that the left is. Explain that better to me. So you're talking about challenges to the 2020 election are the same as the left going after political opponents.
What I'm saying is that both things were done to gain a political advantage. The difference I see is that so far, in many of the cases on the left, there are things that the people being charged have done wrong. In terms of Trump, I mean, the idea being, even the Alvin Bragg, and I think the Alvin Bragg is the weakest and the most political of all the cases that Trump has brought up on, but he did do what Bragg is charging him with. Is it a felony? No, not in my opinion. It's a misdemeanor. And should it be necessarily a slap on the wrist? But yes, he did do it. He did have a personal expense and try to wrap it into a business expense. And that is a misdemeanor. Now, we can also talk about the fact that it is outside of the statute of limitations. Okay, fine. I'd let it go. Yeah. But the argument that Bragg came after him and invented something, where on the other side, in the lawsuits that I saw related to the election, many of them were complete fabrications. Complete fabrications about people stealing votes. We had the guy that called about the truck from Pennsylvania coming to Pennsylvania. But of course, they would take the paper ballots from New York, and rather than just sending them through the regular mail, they would bring them all in one giant shipment where they can actually watch them. I mean, that's what he testified happened, and that's what happened. So, I mean, that's the thing, is there were all these inventions, and a lot of lawsuits and even defamation suits have come to fruition. Fox News wrote a huge check because they couldn't back up what they were saying, and they were involved and cited in many, many lawsuits.
I'll give you another example as to why I think this is valuable for the future of our democracy.
Okay.
Jack Phillips, Lori Smith, and the Colorado Civil Rights Commission and the use of lawfare to go after innocent citizens in the state of Colorado.
Yeah.
When did they finally get the Colorado Civil Rights Commission to back off of Jack Phillips? Do you remember what ADF did to finally get them?
I don't, but it's
they went and offered to sue. Offered's the wrong word. Threatened to sue John Hickenlooper in his personal capacity, and each member of the Colorado Civil Rights Commission in their personal capacities for the harassment of Jack Phillips.
That's fair. And
that's
I do
finally
believe,
what it took for them to go,
all right,
we're done with this guy. And Autumn Scardina then had to go and file in her own personal capacity.
Yeah. And Autumn absolutely was engaging in lawfare, 110%. I'll be absolutely, and everything that happened with Jack Phillips, absolutely lawfare. And we know that from Autumn Scardina, because the second lawsuit that she filed, she admitted that she was going in there to test him. That she admitted the goal was that she was going to do this. And so that's it. It wasn't about, she wasn't harmed or hurt. She was just trying to screw with him. And that for me is like, okay, invalidated. And I do believe that there are lawsuits that are involved on both sides just to screw with people. However, there is this assumption that just because people that have an R by their name are being charged, it's now lawfare, and it's the liberals and George Soros and everybody. That's what
I'm willing to grant you that point. That look, no one's Jesus in this situation.
Yeah, correct.
No one's perfect, and there are likely, crimes out there that people are perfectly fine being charged with, and I would agree with that.
Yeah,
but
like there's no reason Goldbar's Bob is still in the Senate. Just get out, out, you weasel.
Menendez.
Menendez. Nicely done. I like that.
Every time you bring up his name, my mind goes back to Ted Kennedy failing to properly introduce him in an event.
Oh, that's great.
Bob Menendez, which sounds like a motorcycle. You're on. So Donald Trump indicted 99 times.
Yeah. Isn't it less now? Didn't 3 of them get thrown out?
Yeah. Some of them are getting thrown out.
Yeah. 3. Yeah.
So this is why people also like Donald Trump and are supporting him in this race. Republicans do, because he fights. He's willing to fight the same way that the left fights. So what you often get, especially among Republicans, is this like esteemed, we're above it all, right? We're not going to engage in the same type of mud throwing that the left engages in. And they try to stand themselves out. And what that, I think, has done has allowed the left to see that lawfare is a way for them to go after political opponents, and has emboldened them. And sometimes you need somebody to go back in and throw another punch right back at them. And so in this case, I think what finally makes the left second guess suing everybody they disagree with is the fact that they could get sued themselves or possibly end up in jail, like Donald Trump's calling for.
I see your point, but I don't think it's not necessarily as strong as it may be, especially when we're referring to Donald Trump and him going out there and doing the things the left does. He sues people all the time for bogus reasons. In the last year, he had a lawsuit against CNN, Hillary Clinton, a whole bunch of people thrown out because it was complete BS, and he had to pay their legal fees for all their lawyers, hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, and he had sued them for hurting his name or hurting his fifis or something. I don't know. They called him silly names. I don't know. But he does this all the time. He threatens all the time. Remember during the previous campaign in 2015 and 2016, all the women that were coming forward saying that, oh, he touched me and this and whatever, he was going to sue all those women. Never did. Didn't sue a single one of them, but said he was going to.
I wish Brett Kavanaugh had sued everybody that came out against him.
But again, that's not Donald Trump was promising to, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And there's a number of lawsuits that he's done that have been thrown out recently. So the idea that Donald Trump is this virtuous soldier and he's fighting back against a lawfare, he does the same thing and has been involved in doing the same thing even before he ran for president. You go previous, we talked about it, over 3,000 legal actions. Again, not lawsuits, legal actions that he was involved both as suing on the plus and the minus side. He was on both sides of them, just being involved in over 3,000. Many of those also same type of suits. He sued the author of a book that claimed he was not a billionaire. That went to court, and Donald Trump lost because he couldn't prove he was a billionaire. It vindicated the author. He does this all the time. So the idea that Donald Trump is fighting back against the lawfare, he was doing this game before 2015. So it's not new.
Text messages are going back and forth on this. Bill, you're doing an awesome job of breaking things down this morning.
Oh, thanks,
Basically,
Mom.
both sides accusing the other side of the line and
from you.
explaining it so well. Jeff is just interested in speeding along Trump's dictatorship. Jeff, this is Nebraska. I agree with you. The Democrats need a taste of their own medicine time and time again, that they can count on the conservatives always being the nice guy, so they just walk all over you.
Yeah, those nice guys on January 6th. Go around giving people hugs.
That analysis is correct. That's a conversation you're having. If you really want to have a conversation too, Bill and I both engage on the text messages back and forth.
Do.
What about the innocent until proven guilty? January 6ers are still sitting in jail. Some haven't been in front of a judge yet.
There are reasons for those. It's not as if they were all rounded up and just thrown into prison. There are ones that have been deemed to be dangerous if they are let out, and the government had to prove that in order to keep them behind bars. It's not everybody, but it's just people that had the potentiality.
But then you had the
to
journalist
be
from Blaze TV too that was, drugged before with shackles for simply filming.
But then again, Donald Trump wants to throw media in jail. He's talked about that. He wants media. So the idea that he's not willing to go that far, he said he wants to, and here he wants to throw his political opponents in jail. People that did, that hurt his feelings based on January 6th.
Oh, they're not just because they hurt his feelings. It's because they're hiding evidence.
Oh, so if you hide stuff, it's interesting. That's weird. That's very strange.
Hey, if they're presidents and have the power to declassify, that's another conversation. All right. Phone calls starting to fill up. Where do you fall along this? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Is it good that Donald Trump is calling for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed? Or were the January 6th committee people honest actors and Donald Trump is out of line for calling for them to be jailed? I want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us on the 710 KNUS app. This is the only show where you are invited to be a part of the conversation in Denver. We want to hear your voice. Jeff Hunt here for my friends at Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplis is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, call 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Call, lines are filling up, and texts are filling up as well. we'll look forward to getting to all of them. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine has declared a state of emergency after days of severe weather left a trail of destruction. The governor also activated the Ohio National Guard to help officials with the recovery operations. 3 people died in Logan County from severe storms, which first arrived Thursday. US President Joe Biden and his predecessor Donald Trump took aim at each other in speeches delivered over the weekend as the two men face off in a rematch for the White House. Our Washington correspondent Jagriti Dave has more.
One candidate is too old and mentally unfit to be president. The other is me. This is what Joe Biden said about his Republican rival, recent errors on the campaign trail, even as he himself is trying to bat away questions about his own age and mental proficiency. Donald Trump, meanwhile, called Joe Biden a stupid president. He made dark predictions about the end of meaningful elections if he lost the race in November. And he also attacked certain migrants, saying that they're not people, in my opinion, and later called them animals. The Trump campaign said that the former president's comments were taken out of context and that he was merely commenting on the downfall of the American car industry under the Biden administration.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Donald Trump over the weekend calls for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed. Glad he's doing that. Bill Thorpe disagrees with me. And that's the show you got here, the Jeff and Bill Show.
Surprise.
Text messages on both sides of this as well. Trump is always out of line. He cheats and lies in anything, and he's anything but a Christian. There's another one on here that Donald Trump was never treated fairly, but I can't find it. So there it is. The left has attacked Trump since he said he was running as a Republican, from fake opposition research to left saying that they are going to impeach him before he took office. They've continually tried anything and everything they could to damage him, and it continues. If the media acted as they should, they would give us facts rather than one-sided anti-Trump Republican agendas. The January 6th committee was not fair actors. Rod from Littleton. I'm with Rod on that one. All right, let's go to Joe in Arvada. Joe, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Jeff. I just couldn't stand hearing some of this nonsense. You know, Donald Trump was a real estate mogul in New York. You had to fight. He's a puncher and a counter puncher.
Yep.
When somebody sues Donald Trump, you can expect to get sued multiple times. And I think it's a part of the New York culture. If you're going to go ahead and take a shot at somebody, be prepared to get a return blow.
Yep. Yep. No, I think that's very fair. That's very fair.
But I want to poke back at some of the narrative that's emitting from, Billy. I'm sorry. Look, Donald Trump is about to sell his share of Truth Social to raise some funds. His stock in Truth Social is estimated to be worth over $4 billion.
No,
please stop with
way.
the yes.
Really?
It is.
You think so?
That's right.
I agree,
it's already been valued.
I agree with you, Joe, but I've been on Truth Social, and I don't know.
I'm sorry, it's already been valued. You can, stock is a matter of multiplication. You multiply the number of shares times the stock price.
Mm-hmm.
When he sells his shares, it will be an enormous fortune. Now, will he? That's like asking, will Elon Musk sell his shares of fill in the blank? Of course he's going to hold on to stock, but the idea that Donald Trump isn't a billionaire is a joke. It's just like the doink that estimated Mar-a-Lago at $18 million.
Right.
What an idiot.
That was the tax assessor. So the tax assessor was
when
wrong?
you say that, let me explain something to you, Billy. When your property is assessed at $18 million,
that was the low
and
end.
you're going to go just a second when you're going to go ahead and pay your taxes. You don't call the tax assessor up and say, "Hey, it's worth $180 million. Could you bump it up so I can pay my taxes on $180 million?" Duh.
Okay, and your point is?
Well, my point is that anybody who runs around and says Mar-a-Lago's only worth $18 million is a moron.
Well, the $18 million is the low end of the estimation. And Donald Trump didn't protest the estimation, nor did he try to pay the larger share. And then when he took out the loans,
of course not.
I know, but then when he took out the loans, he valued it over that. And then also the important part is represented it as a private residence, not a social club. And that's a lie. That's a lie.
Nonsense. Here's another thing.
Joe, wait,
when you're
that's
just
a lie.
A second, let me
that's
finish.
A lie.
When don't interrupt me for a second. You can have the floor in just a moment. Look, when you are a real estate investor, you do whatever you can to inflate the costs of your property when you're going to obtain larger loans to try to gain more property. It's part of the game, Billy. If you don't understand that, you'll never be any good in real estate.
Joe, I appreciate the call. Joe from Arvada. Joe's line is going to be open 303-696-1971. Frank and Don, we're going to get you in just a second. Let's check in on the news with Blake. Blake, what are you covering for us?
Hey, guys, if I may, Brandon Straka told you this last week, and this is why Donald Trump wants Liz Cheney jailed.
You know, all of these minority communities and all of these different people who are terrified right now, this is all false terror. You know, this is all an illusion that's being created by the media to manipulate people and control people, because ultimately, if they can control the way that we think and the way that we feel, then they can control the way that we vote. And that's what this is all about.
Now, believe it or not, I played the wrong bite, but he talked about where he was jailed, and he said no one came to his aid and helped him. I mean, they came to his house and arrested him, and it was. I thought I had it up here, but I'll try to play it for you later. But it was a great bite in your interview that you had with him. Liz Cheney, all the establishment, they were all a part of that. And there are a lot of innocent people who are in jail to this day after January 6th. So I digress. I apologize. But the trial of a semi truck driver who killed 5 people begins today. We'll talk about that at the top of the hour. And 2 people found dead in one of the mayor's House 1,000 hotels. That and more coming up at the top of the hour. And I'll try to find the right bite if I can.
I appreciate it, Blake. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Blake does the news for us at the top of the hour, so you're not going to want to miss that. The honest news, which you won't get anywhere else here in Colorado. Let's go to Frank in Evergreen. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. Hey, Bill, you're doing a great job. I hear CNN's hiring, so you may want to get your resume over to them.
Hey, if they have a big paycheck, I do not care. I don't. I mean, I talk Newsmax, OAN, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. I don't care if the money is green and says USA on it. Talk to me. I can be hired.
Might be a stretch for you.
Never know. Jessica Tarloff does a decent job on there.
Oh yeah, you know I'm impressed with her actually. She does hang in there, even though she's wrong all the time. But here's the thing: is that saying that Trump doesn't know anything about economics don't you think that's a little bit silly to say that, Billy? You know what?
No, not at all.
Business is, don't you?
Yeah, and his professors have said that he is the worst. One of his professors said it was the worst student he's ever had in class. There's not a single professor.
Graduated him, or he still got? Did he get the degree or no? I don't
remember. Have you figured out how it works? If you write the check big enough, it doesn't matter if you show up to class. That's how he got in. He didn't qualify to get in based on his grades. You know that as well, right? So, it was a favor.
If you don't mind me asking, where'd you go to school?
Why is that relevant to this conversation? Because the issue,
Frank,
here's the issue. No, Frank, here's the issue: is what you're trying to do is you're trying to denigrate me. You're trying to say, well, obviously, I didn't go to the same schools as Trump, and I don't have this background. And what I'm telling you is I'm challenging you on Frank, I'm challenging you on your premise. You said Trump went to Horton Business, and I said he didn't have the grades to get in. He got in because of his name, which is true. And his professors have said he was the worst student that they've had. Now, the other part is this. He knows real estate, but you challenged me about economics. He doesn't know economics based solely on the idea of tariffs. He doesn't understand how tariffs work. He doesn't fundamentally understand them.
Tariffs, an entire section of our department of our government deals with tariffs.
He doesn't. No, Frank, that's not what I said. I said he doesn't understand them at the very base level.
You're implying, you implied that they were a bad part of economics or something. I thought you said.
No, what I said was that he doesn't understand how they work. No, Frank, with respect, I said he doesn't understand how they work, and that is a basic economic principle. And if he's going to run the country, it's going to be a big deal.
With respect back at you, buddy, I think the guy who built a multi-billion-dollar business and employs many, many people, I think he probably knows a little bit about economics.
Then why does he routinely get tariffs wrong? He talks about them over and over again and does it wrong. Yes, he does. He talks about the Chinese during his last administration sending billions of dollars because of his tariffs. And you and I both know tariffs are paid by the importer. You know that. But he says the Chinese paid it. That's not how it works.
Billy. Okay, so the 100% might be a little high. So I'd go with say 95%. Okay, But tariffs actually do have a role in our economy and in our trade. I mean, it's a simple fact.
Was he right about it? Was he right about his principle on tariffs?
Like I just said, the 100% may be wrong. Maybe only 95%.
Who pays a tariff? Who pays the tariff? Who pays the tariff?
People who pay taxes.
It's the same people who pay minimum wage, Bill.
No, who pays the tariff? If you put a tariff on an imported good, who pays the tariff? The importer? Yes, exactly. Thank you. That's all I was saying. Thank you. Finally.
But we have
Finally.
A choice to not pay it. If their car now is costing more than the Made in America Ford or Chrysler or whatever, then we should make a choice not to buy their stupid car, so we don't pay it.
I think Bill is taking the calls. I appreciate the call, Frank. Thanks so much, Frank from Evergreen. I want to get back on to January 6th because we've gone off into tariffs and all those other things. Trump calls for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed. Here, Joseph, I think from 0069 on the text message, I think probably gets this right. When either side calls to jail people they disagree with, it pushes us closer to civil war. We're already entering the 1860s. Good foundation we're laying for our kids. I wish, Joe, that was a fair critique 5-6 years ago with the treatment of Donald Trump. At this point, the left believes that this is an avenue in which to go after the political opponents. I think they're unhinged in their use of lawfare against their political opponents. And that's why I agree with Donald Trump calling for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed.
So the solution is to throw them in jail.
How do you stop that?
What is the crime?
Mutually assured destruction.
What
It's
is
the
the
same
crime
thing we
that they
do.
did?
Withheld evidence.
Withheld what evidence?
Well, just like we pointed out, the
Okay.
testimony of the...
And that impacts the conclusion of the January 6th committee. How?
Some of it. Well,
No,
it doesn't matter.
how?
You can't hide some evidence.
No. No.
And then be like, well, it wouldn't have affected the actual conclusion. You're not allowed to do that.
That would seem to be important. If we're saying that this is massive evidence that is so important that they obviously hid it because they're so afraid of it. So what's the fallout? What does it do? It didn't do anything. I mean, there's nothing involved in the base conclusion of the January 6th committee that is dependent upon whether or not Donald Trump tried to grab the steering wheel in the Secret Service limousine. That means nothing to the conclusions. We could say that it is true, or we could say that it is false. We could take it in or out of the case, and it would not matter.
Yes,
it has
it
nothing.
would.
No, it
Yes.
doesn't.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna.
How is
we're,
it, no. How is
we're
it
gonna
germane?
Continue to run this.
When they did it, I thought it was
Oh,
absolutely
my
stupid. It's not germane. It's not germane to the conversation. But so what?
It totally is.
No, it isn't.
They're
in the
not
least.
truthful actors. Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee are not truthful actors, and they led an impeachment against the president of the United States.
So now Liz is a liar because of the thing about the. Okay, sure. Okay.
All
right, that's where we are.
Guys, generally, we hear talk about medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues. Today, I want to talk to you about love. The one you love is the light of your life. And if you're like most men, you want to do whatever you can to nurture your relationship. But if you're suffering with ED, you know the impacts the condition is likely having on you and on your partner. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and has successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have 5 locations in Colorado: Fort Collins, North Denver, Central Denver, Castle Rock, and Colorado Springs. Stop dealing with the lack of confidence that ED brings. Call them today at 720-440-7900, 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. Don, we're going to get to you in just a second. We do have an open line. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Is it good for this country that Donald Trump calls for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed? Or is this wrong? Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee were truth tellers seeking to go after a president that incited an insurrection Where do you fall on this line? Or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
go to Don, line 3, Colorado Springs. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I wish you guys all the best. This is kind of a good
thanks.
arrangement for KNUS. Well, I think Bill is making some points that Donald Trump is making the overkill, and probably because of that, you're dealing with Liz Cheney and all of that. And I think throwing them into jail is a little too much, maybe a little restitution. But this is the stuff that conservatives like, because they're getting tired by the abuse by the American Lagos, and they feel that Donald Trump is a leader that truly speaks the feelings that the left feels for them, and not this, nicer than God mentality that they expect of us.
Yeah. Don, I really think that's why you won the primary. Right there is why you won the primary.
Exactly. Because that's the kind of the personality that they like. And I mean, while Ron DeSantis is the fighter, they feel that it's time for him to wait his turn and let Trump fight out one more time.
Don, appreciate the call.
Have a good one.
That's exactly right. Have a good one yourself, my
day.
friend. We'll continue this conversation. Trump calls for Liz Cheney to be jailed. Do you agree with that? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Man, we are having fun this morning. Good morning, Denver. You're tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with the Where do I even put you, Bill Thorpe?
The off
the rabble rouser, Bill Thorpe, bringing you
the off maligned, the taunted.
You should see our text message thread this morning.
I know,
amazing.
Oh yeah. The only thing is, guys, I got kids. So you have any idea what they call me versus this? This is easy. Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's like I've been put into purgatory with the debate kid from high school.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, unfortunately, yes, that was me.
Sometimes you just take sides to have fun.
Yes,
so,
yes, I do, and my kids hate that. I will do that all the time with them. They hate it when they start doing like English papers and things and psychology papers and things. I always come in and say, no, let's look at this side. Let's look at this side. I'm like, stop it.
We do very similar things at our dinner table because that's how you get them to think critically, which is important. Which is what we're doing here. Hey, Denver's finally thawing out. We're going up for another great day of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, friends, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We're going to get to the news with Blake Olson in just a second. Nice day today, 58 degrees, sunny. Tuesday, 62. Wednesday, 63. Thursday, 65. Woohoo! We're going to melt all this snow, which is nice.
And you'll be able to wash the car if you can, because I got to wash one of
we couldn't plow. I tried to plow, and we just sunk right into all the wet snow and then got high centered. And so the wheels were all spinning and all that stuff. And that happened 2 or 3 times. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to have to let this thing thaw out.
I watched all the snow melt off my south-facing driveway. But
nice.
again,
did you have to plow at all? No.
And that's why
shovel, none of that stuff.
That's why south. Yeah. Again, it's if I get less than an inch, I don't shovel nothing because again, the driveway faces south along with
you can see everybody who moves in from California and they're like, I bought a house that's northern facing.
We have a woman that lives across the street that's from New York. Yeah. And every time I see her, she's like, and it's during the winter, she's like, you and your south-facing driveway, because she gets the ice that builds up in certain places where the sun never hits on her driveway, and so she's always fighting that. And she says, "You have any idea how jealous I am when I look out the door and I walk out and your driveway is clear and I got ice over here?" Like, you are welcome.
Let's go to Frank in Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. Bill, if your techniques are successful with your kids, 2 of them may become lawyers.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but then they're going to sue me for being a bad parent, and I'm not certain I'm going to give that one.
That would be just rewards, and you would have such interesting Thanksgiving conversations.
Good point, but one of us probably may be in jail, but that's okay. Well, probably a positive for some of the show listeners. Yeah.
My comment on this action by Trump, or this comment by Trump, is that there may be an opportunity here. I heard that the judge down in Atlanta discharged the one prosecutor, but he left Fannie open to either stay on the case or leave the case. And since she represents herself as an expert in RICO, I wonder if she could go to Washington and take that RICO experience and apply it to the J6ers, who obviously put on this grand show trial and hired a guy from California to orchestrate it. And the definition of RICO, racketeering and corrupt organizations, is a group of people presenting a case for a desired outcome. And I wonder if that fits that particular trial.
Mr. Bill? You want to respond, Frank?
It's, the thing for me is that I think, it's an interesting idea, but I think the RICO case, I'm not sure they could pick it up and move it, this way. I'm not certain, and I think because
I think we should sue everybody.
No,
just everybody sue each other, and we all bring in our political opponents before show trials. Yeah, that's going to work out well for this.
I think it's for me that I think that what I'm hearing from Frank though is that he's not necessarily thinking that the case in Georgia rises to RICO, and I think it does based on their loose standards. And would it rise to RICO in other states? Probably not. But inside of Georgia,
wait. We found a state that has a law that benefits us politically, and we're now bringing our opponents before trials because of that.
It would be pertinent, except for the phone calls that the president made at the time. That'd be the problem.
If the case in Georgia fit the RICO statutes, why did they allow them to split defenses and try them individually rather than a group.
That's what they do in RICO cases all the time. In fact, that's why you indict so many at first, because what you're trying to do is you grab. Let's just take an example. You indict 10. You're trying to carve off 4 to 6 of those and turn them against the other defendants. You want to take those low-level people and say, look, you guys are all facing these big charges.
Great thing to do in politics against your political opponents.
It's in criminal law, and that's what this is. And that's the issue.
So it's great to put your political opponents before criminal
law.
Well,
again, the political opponents would have to not call the Secretary of State and ask him to invent votes for you.
Oh, that's
which is
not
illegal.
What he did. Come on.
Yes, he
Bill.
did.
No, he
yes.
didn't.
Yes, he did.
Was saying that you don't have to go and survey the entire state to find these votes that were illegal. You just have to look for a few of them.
Yeah, but
he was not calling to invent votes.
Yes, he did. Yes,
no,
he
was not.
Yes, he did. And the Secretary of State was clear on the audits and the fact those votes didn't exist, and he's still pushing for them. He's still pushing.
Not calling to.
Yeah, that's why he used the word recalculate. Votes. That's why he used the word recalculate. That's important.
But you bring in countering legal minds to counter your argument. I don't know. It's all lawfare. And
it is.
I think Jeff's point about there is some payback to countering with the typical kind of stuff. I just hate to see our Congress and our political parties lower themselves to this kind of behavior. But if you have one party that's going to continually do that, unfortunately, you have to counter with something of equal strength.
Now, just
Frank,
before we get any further, Frank, can you tell me what has been the result of the potential impeachment and investigations from Comer and Jim Jordan on the Biden-Cram family? How's that gone?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So it's a zero-sum game, wasting taxpayers' dollars. And I always talk about the Levi Strauss ad. You ever see that?
Yeah.
You remember the Levi Strauss
No,
ad?
I don't. Remind me that.
Okay, so back when Levi came out, they had this beautiful picture of a pair of Levi's with a stay in each leg, and going in opposite directions was 2 horses. And they said they can't pull these rivets apart in the jeans. So my question is, how much work was that team of horses pulling in opposite directions getting done? 0.
Mm-hmm.
What if you ask each horse to move 90 degrees so they're all pulling in the same direction, a la the legislature trying to work together to get something done for this country? Then
Frank, it's a very fair point.
Can't work
very
together.
fair point.
Have you been paying attention,
if
Frank?
it was actually about delivering for the people too, I'd be interested in that. It's not.
Me too.
It's all about special interests and who writes the checks. Frank and Steve, we're going to get to you in a second. I want to check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. 33 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the trial of a semi-truck driver accused of killing a family of 5 in Weld County in 2022, begins today. Authorities say that Jesus Puebla did not have a valid commercial driver's license and was going 76 miles per hour, even though the traffic had slowed on I-25. He faces 5 counts of vehicular homicide for slamming in to a stopped SUV. An uncle of the victims, Thomas Bueno, wants accountability.
Every week that goes by, you're just like, why? Why does it take so long?
Aurora police say a suspect fleeing from a scene of a carjacking Sunday night caused a deadly crash. The initial armed carjacking was reported near Stanley Marketplace at 23rd Avenue and Dallas Street, and responding officers spotted the stolen vehicle as it sped away. They tried to stop the suspect, but he ended up crashing into another vehicle near Dayton and 19th Avenue, killing 1 person. The suspect was arrested. 2 people were found dead, a man and a woman, in a Denver hotel shelter Saturday night. Police investigating the case as a homicide, and the hotel shelter on North Quebec Street, where they found the 2 people, is reportedly part of Mayor Johnston's House 1,000 initiative. Authorities say the mayor is aware of the situation. There's no word yet on any suspects or arrests, and the victims' identities have not been released. A lot of backlash, of course, from the left and the mainstream media over former President Trump using the word bloodbath.
Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
All right. He was talking about the auto industry in China, in Mexico, building cars. It'll be a bloodbath for the auto industry. He said it twice. He probably should have clarified that. Trump says he wants Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee jailed after what they did to guys like Brandon Straka, who joined Jeff and Bill last week.
I did not enter the Capitol on January 6th. I didn't engage in any violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction. I was quite literally out on the grounds shooting a video, and I uploaded my video to Twitter. And because of that, the FBI raided my home, put me in jail, and the DOJ dragged me through hell. People should have stood up on day one and said, this is wrong. What's happening to people is not right. And we're not going to allow you to get away with doing this to our people. I want justice for what happened to me. You know, I'm not looking to like reach across the aisle and shake hands and be like, you know, thank you for throwing me in jail for no reason.
So Trump is fighting back. The Biden administration's legal case over social media moderation is headed to the Supreme Court. The justices will hear arguments today over whether federal officials violated the First Amendment when they argued or urged platforms to remove false or misleading posts. The case stems from attempts by the administration to curb COVID misinformation, is what they say. CSU and CU officially in the NCAA tournament bracket. They're in what is called the first four in Dayton, Ohio. CSU takes on Virginia tomorrow, and CU faces Boise State on Wednesday. If they win, they advance to the first round on Thursday and Friday. The CU Lady Buffs, they're the 5th seed in the tournament, tipping off this week. 28 in Arvada, 29 in Lone Tree, and 33 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
This is kind of my theme song too.
311, whatever happened to those guys?
They're still around. They were touring last summer. They've got a boat, a cruise thing that they do as well. Although I think the last
they're that old.
Yeah, the last album.
We're not going to move around
2-3 years ago.
Move around for us.
Yeah. Oh no, those are huge moneymakers. Huge moneymakers.
Yeah.
Because you basically
they're fun.
Yeah,
I love cruises,
and
man.
it's self-contained, and the band then plays. You have other bands that play, but the band plays every night, so it's kind of this traveling concert, and you go and do other things. Yeah,
and you see them hanging out by the pool and all that cool stuff.
You remember we talked a little while ago. Creed, Scott Stapp and the band, they're doing a cruise this summer as well. So there's a number of them.
The Jeff and Bill cruise.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody listening would want to spend that much time.
Are
with
you
me.
a cruiser?
I've never been. I would love to, but.
Never been on a cruise.
No, I don't live the lifestyle you have. I don't come home to my own manse at night and have the servants to deal with all of the things that I need to be done around the house.
Oh, I love so people like either love or hate them, and if you get seasick, that's a big indicator as to whether or not you love or hate it. But
probably a good indicator,
bro. The activities.
Oh, yeah.
I'm one of those guys that's like, we're going to go play 3-on-3 basketball, and then we're going zip lining. It's like nonstop. We will go till 2 a.m. I'll get 4 hours of sleep, and then we're back at it again the next morning.
I have a friend that does cruises quite a bit, and she always says that the number one thing, she says, go through and figure out your activities, and especially your dining.
Yes.
And make those reservations day one, like immediately when you get on.
You book.
Yeah, you do it immediately then, because if you wait, you're like, maybe we'll think about it and do it tomorrow. It's going to be gone. Yeah. So figure out the stuff you want first and make those reservations. She says, especially the dining. She says, that's the one that is going to be the most difficult thing to get to later on, is the dining that you want to. But I have no idea.
Speaking of cruises, I think after reading these text messages, you might not make it home.
No, not at all.
Or one of us.
No, they would leave me. They would leave me somewhere. I would be
tossed off the.
Yes, I would be. It would be one of those things where they'd say, "Hey, Bill, come over here. We think we can see this dolphin over the edge. No, lean further. No, lean a little further. It's right down. Lean a little. That's what would happen.
Here's what I do love about
and I might
this,
deserve it.
And we're gonna get to Frank and Steven just say, you guys have been so patient. Thank you. These text messages are great because we have a lot of liberals that listen to this show.
Yes.
Because they like you and they don't like me, and they feel like they get that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. They feel like there's somebody that agrees with them. So I would say a good third, maybe 40% of the text messages are in support of you and really don't like
really
me.
Nice. Yeah.
And then the other ones are ready to
I
throw
will
Bill
say,
off
though,
the boat.
Yeah, I will say. I'm just going to say that the ones that dislike me call me better names than the one that make fun of. I'm just saying that the people dislike me are much more assertive, angry, and much better nicknames for me.
I've got a
better.
big fan out there.
Yeah, you do. There's one. Oh,
there's
boy,
one
yes.
that really loves me on this.
Well, we appreciate them listening and either side. And that's the thing is, we'll have conversations with anybody, anywhere across the political spectrum, and we're not going to come at this as if it's a cheerleading idea. This is not a pep rally. This is the one place that you're going to have in town, and maybe one of the few places you have in the entire country where your voice will be heard, where we'll give you a chance to talk and we'll discuss it with you. Neither Jeff nor I come to the table and say, oh my gosh, we're absolutely right. We have our opinions. We think that we're correct on some things, but we're not dogmatic in many ways. And we'll listen. And we'll understand what you're trying to say. So we'll give you
your voice here at Denver. Let's go to Frank. Speaking of voices, let's go to Frank and Golden. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
Hey, guys. Had you got way too many Franks to call in?
I know. I was saying the same thing before. I was like, are they all named Frank?
They are. I think it's a club.
I just realized that, man. I'm like, yeah. So here's the deal. I'm Francis is my God-given name. So from now on, I'm Francis.
All right. I like that.
Deal. All right. Hey, you guys. I'm asking this question in earnest because I don't really know an answer. But what is the basis for Trump asking that the January 6th committee be jailed? Why is he saying that? What is the root cause of this?
Yeah, so let me get it. And you know what? You're right, Frank. Francis, let me reset this story here. Okay, so this is Mediaite. Trump calls for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed. This gets into an article written by John Solomon that the January 6th committee withheld crucial evidence in its probe by not releasing the testimony of a Secret Service agent who drove Trump's limo on January 6th. So Cassidy Hutchinson, if you remember, she was a former White House staffer. She claimed Trump tried to grab the steering wheel of the limo in an effort to redirect it to the Capitol. So you have this staffer saying, if you remember this, all the story, like Trump was unhinged. He wanted to drive up and join the insurrection. He wanted to lead the people to overthrow the government. And in just released testimony, the Secret Service agent that was actually driving said, I did not see Trump reach. He never grabbed the steering wheel. I did not see him, lunge to try to get to the front seat at all. What stood out was his irritation in his voice more than his physical appearance. So the argument that Trump is making is that not only did the January 6th committee withhold evidence, but that you have White House staffers, former White House staffers, that were lying during the testimony. And these folks put together a show trial to impeach the president, and they should be jailed as a result of it.
I guess so it's basically you have a some sort of a limo driver, a Secret Service person who said that didn't happen, as opposed to what Cassidy, whatever her name is, said did happen.
Yeah.
And so that is in some way, shape, or form suppressing evidence. And I guess when did this limo driver come out with this? Was that something that was out there during the January 6th hearings?
It sounds like it was. It sounds like it was testimony that was done at the time. And if we jump into our Wayback Machine during that time with Cassidy Hutchinson, it was blown up by the media. Oh my gosh, look, he's so unhinged. However, during coverage as well, more reputable journalists did say there were some questions about this, that there were some other people behind the scenes that were involved in Secret Service that disagree with Cassidy's story, but there were other portions of Cassidy's story that they did back up. Things like him asking about whether or not the crowd January 6th had weapons, why they're being held so far away, things like that. Those conversations were backed up. But this one conversation about jumping and grabbing the steering wheel doesn't seem to appear to be true, or at least not backed up by anybody else. But there were questions about it at the time. But
and this was released just last week.
Yeah, but again, there were questions at the time. But evidently, to Donald Trump, he's saying, well, obviously now that means I am totally free and I should be named king of all I survey.
Well, here's what the way I look at this is that, look, January 6th was accurately described by Peter Boyles as a beer hall putsch. It wasn't necessarily rising to the level of insurrection, but we all saw what happened kind of like in real time.
Right.
I mean, Trump, it's Trump's crimes, if any, and I'm saying that with like small c crimes, are crimes of omission, not commission. He just didn't do anything to try to calm all these yahoos down.
Yeah.
And so, I don't, this isn't, so what I'm trying to get to here is that I want somebody jailed is just, once again, kind of like Trump acting out as an adolescent, silly person, because there's no basis to jail anybody.
Do you think
there's no crime that was
Frank,
committed?
do you think that's how the left treats him, though? 99 indictments. We just want him jailed so that he's not reelected.
I think that a lot of this is, like you say, lawfare, but I think that it doesn't. There has to be, and I would invite the far right, the cultists, to let Trump take some responsibility for what he's put himself in these spots. He's left himself open as a target. But let's stick to this particular missive where he's wanting everybody jailed. It's silly. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. And here's the deal. You guys know I'm the unaffiliated guy. I'm the one who I represent, at least in part, who's going to help make the decisions on election day for president. And what I'm going to do, and because I talked about this before, and I'm like, I don't want to just go into it kind of like a rudderless ship where I'm like, who am I going to vote for, or am I going to vote at all for president? What I'm going to do is do this. I'm not going to vote for Biden, so that's aside. What I'm going to do is put on a legal pad a strikes and balls list of stupid things or dumb things or things that are misstatements, mistakes, silliness on both sides for Biden and Trump. And all dumb Trump has to do is have less on his column than Biden does, because it's an election in the negative. And so if that's the third election in a row for president that's going to be in the negative, then by God, I'm going to score it in the negative. And that way I won't be a rudderless ship. And so all this, these two idiots who shouldn't be running for anything have to do is not step on their own, what, more than the other guy.
Oh boy, you're asking a lot.
And then I will vote for him.
Oh, that's
I know.
Yeah,
but hey,
man.
What am I supposed to do? I'm not going to throw my vote away to some. They both aren't. They don't deserve my vote.
Frank, you are an educated person, so I don't think that this is necessarily going to be an issue for you. I understand what you're doing, putting and creating the list. I think there are people that are going to create that list, and one of the things they're going to have on that list is Donald Trump called for a bloodbath if he's not elected.
Yeah. I think that's another one.
But that wasn't. That's the point I'm putting out. He didn't call for a bloodbath. The media is going to go out there and run. They know there's people like you who are going to create that list and go, and it's not bad. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But what I am going to try to point out, though, is that for people that are low information voters that may not have a list as big as yours and as detailed and as educated, they're going to put that on there, and it would never happen. He never called for a bloodbath if he wasn't elected. That was completely a misrepresentation of what he said.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is that I'm not counting that one because it's out of context. It's an out of context thing. But this particular one I'm going to count from, selection day forward is when I'm starting to keep score. And you know why? Because you don't root against Jesuit schools during the tournament. It's just something.
That's a great point.
But so look, that's why I'm not counting bloodbath, because it really was out of context and it didn't happen during my scoring window. And so from there forward, I'm just going to do this. And I got to call my own balls and strikes. I mean, I'm not going to, but I'm also going to look, if Trump has the maturity, the manhood, the whatever, to actually hold himself accountable for something, I'm going to erase one of his strikes. I'm going to take that away because he's actually acted like a mature adult.
Frank, to that point, I will give you my criticism of Trump over the weekend was what he said about DeSantis. I thought that was out of bounds, big time. I want to get your reaction to this audio here real quick. Frank,
Sure.
Stay on the line. This is Trump on DeSantis over the weekend.
CNN turned off when here we are. We campaigned for a year, and I obliterate my competition. And they said, "Sir, please don't talk about these people that way. They're Republicans." I said, "I don't give a shit. They're terrible." I said, "I don't care." No, my highly paid advisor, "Sir, you shouldn't talk to them about that." One of the people said, "Are you going to run against the president?" He said, "I have no comment." To me, that meant he's running. So I hit him hard. I hit him low. I hit him high, just like we did to ISIS. We hit him hard. We hit him low. We hit him high. We hit him in the middle. We hit him from on top, and we even came under the ground. We hit this guy so hard, by the time he announced, nobody knew what the hell happened. They said, "What happened to him? He's a shell of the man."
So that was Trump on DeSantis bragging about how he destroyed him. He fights so hard. He goes after his opponents. And I like that on the left, but I've been critical of Republicans in the Denver Post beating up Trump supporters and people, Trump supporters going rhino hunting, going after him. Guys, we're in a general election at this point. We win when we have the most people on the bus. And so, Frank, your point that you'd like to see Trump acting more the statesman, more the leader for our country. I did not, and I'm a Trump fan. I'm a MAGA-loving Trump fan. I did not like that because he needs to pull them together. We win simply when we got more people on the bus. What's the point of going after DeSantis if you've already defeated him? What did you think of that, Frank?
No, I think you're 100% right. And from your perspective, from the unaffiliated perspective, to me, the important part that I listened to in that is how the crowd reacted. Because Trump likes to just get he shovels it out there like raw meat to a bunch of hyenas, and they all cheer when he likes to use the S word or act like an idiot. And it's because they think that is fighting. They think that is how you fight. And he plays to this super far right wing kind of knuckle dragging part of the crowd that's not appropriate, and it doesn't unite anybody. And that I think once again, he just doesn't have the maturity or the self-reflection to realize that he's got to actually play to the center, not to the masses, not to the cult. The cult's the cult. The cult's going to follow him no matter what.
Frank, to your point on this, and I appreciate the call, Frank from Golden. Thanks so much. Frank's line is going to be open 303-696-1971. You win 30% of the vote, and they're all fired up, and they love me on the room. 30% is not going to get you president of the United States. 51% does. 51% gets you to be the president of the United States.
Yeah, and
I don't get it.
No, there was a conversation that Trump had with Howard Kurtz this weekend on Fox News, and one of the things that he talked about was his landslide victory. No. The victory in 2016 wasn't even close to a landslide.
I like Ron DeSantis. I think Ron DeSantis is an incredible governor. I did not vote for him in the primary. I voted for Donald Trump in the primary. But why wouldn't you bring all those Ron DeSantis supporters in with you?
Yeah.
I don't get it. All right. Do you have a high school student considering their college plans? Are they ready to discover more about their gifts and talents? Do you hope to see them become part of the next generation of Christian leaders? Your student is invited to Colorado Christian University's Discovery Preview. This week-long event is completely free. Discovery Preview is designed for students who desire to seek God's purpose and calling in their lives. Students are immersed in the community, culture, and mission of CCU. Workshops focused on calling, career, and Christ-centered leadership help them explore their unique strengths and potential career options. Their Christ-centered community will even take the students on a Colorado adventure to experience the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. Eligible students can also qualify for a $1,250 annual scholarship for attending. Don't miss Discovery Preview this summer, June 17th through the 21st. The event is designed for seniors and juniors in high school, and again, is absolutely free. To learn more, go to ccu.edu/discovery. That's ccu.edu/discovery. All right, we'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. New artificial intelligence tools are helping doctors communicate with their patients. Haley Bianco has the story.
It's been just 15 months since OpenAI released ChatGPT, and already thousands of doctors are using the technology to answer messages and take notes during exams. Enthusiasts say these AI tools help doctors save time and prevent burnout. They're also shaking up the doctor-patient relationship, raising questions of privacy and the future of human connection.
A volcano in Iceland has erupted for the fourth time since December, prompting a fresh set of evacuations for those living on the country's southwestern coast. Authorities say the latest eruption first started Saturday night, with a 1.8-mile-long fissure forming quickly and leaving molten hot lava streaming down the mountain towards protection barriers which have been built for nearby towns. Experts say the latest eruption is thought to be the largest of the four registered in recent months. Authorities say they don't expect any disruption to transatlantic flights, unlike previous eruptions. One person has died and two hospitalised after an active shooter situation in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Meanwhile, a separate shooting happened in Washington, D.C. early Sunday morning, with 2 killed and 5 injured. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
58 and sunny today. 62, 63, 65 for the next few days. Lovely spring weather in Colorado.
It's going to be wonderful.
Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're covering Donald Trump's rally over the weekend. Trump calls for Liz Cheney and the entire January 6th committee to be jailed. Let's go to Tony in Littleton. Tony, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Hey, good morning. So I don't really have I really don't want to deal with this split hair on, Liz Cheney and the whole committee being prosecuted and so forth. It's really a bigger question. And it's you, Jeff. If in 2016, Barack Obama had done exactly the same thing in defense of Hillary's narrow loss, right out of the gate. Oh, it's a stolen election. Then marched through the courts and went through one court case after another with no evidence and hence always losing. Then came up with this fake ballot slates of electors to come in, and then ultimately putting pressure on his vice president to reject the results. And then ultimately, if maybe he had a crowd of Antifa there and had them attacking the Capitol, would you be defending that today to your audience that's calling in and they're all furious about it? Would you be saying, hey, everybody, nothing to see here, that's just normal political discourse?
Yeah, Tony, I think you'd be a really good defender for the other side on this. I think some of what you said wasn't accurate. But I mean, I do not believe Donald Trump fomented an insurrection in order to overturn an election.
I just simply saying if Obama had done exactly the same thing, would you be telling exactly the same thing, whatever you think was right or wrong or false or true or whatever? Would you be telling your audience, hey, nothing to see here? This was all fair game, all fair political game, normal political discourse. You would be defending Obama to your audience.
I'll tell you what I think the left did after 2016. I think they got together and I think they said this can never happen again. And therefore, we're going to make sure that during the next presidential election, we do everything we possibly can, even if it's changing laws and the way we access ballots to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't win. So you can look at what happened on January 6th and say, look, they tried to interfere. They tried to stop. They tried to do all that stuff. The left did very similar things for the 4 years that Donald Trump was there. They did everything they possibly could to try to stop his presidency in unlawful ways, in my opinion. And I don't think that was fair.
In all due respect, you're not really answering that question. And I am answering your question. So you would be defending. You defend Obama,
No.
same circumstance.
What I think you're doing is trying to make Donald Trump look like he's some extremist radical that is a threat to our democracy. And what I'm pointing out to you is that the left has been engaged in very similar things that you, quote, said Donald Trump did for years, and you just want to make Donald Trump out to look like the extremist.
Let me answer it. I vote. As just like a majority of the country did 2 times, voted for Obama. First guy who did that since Reagan, right? That won the majority of the vote. I was one of them. So I will say this straight up to you. If Obama had done exactly the same thing, not one difference, I'd personally be outraged, disappointed. I would want him to be held accountable.
They did everything they could to disrupt his presidency, including illegal activity. They lied. They lied. And you have come on this show to bash Donald Trump. You're not holding the left accountable.
Jeff, I asked you just a straight up question. If you would be defending Obama if he had done the same thing. And I'm telling you, let me finish my statement and I'll get off your air, and I appreciate your time. If Obama had done that and I voted for him twice, I would not be defending him personally in any way, shape, or form, and I'd be as outraged if he did it and as disappointed, and I'd consider it a threat to our democracy and weakening our country if he had done exactly the same thing. Now, you don't feel that way,
Tony. I think you are not I think you've totally excused what Barack Obama and the radical left have done, and you feel like Donald Trump is the real threat to democracy while ignoring everything, the lies, the impeachments, in my opinion, rigging the laws so that they can win elections. And you haven't brought up that at all. Tony, I appreciate the call. Tony from Littleton. I mean,
I understand his point.
So what the point he's trying to make, I get it, is that, we're not holding Donald Trump to account. And if Barack Obama had done the same thing, then we would have been calling for him to be, I guess, jailed or impeached or those types of things.
Yeah.
But I think he's ignoring everything that the left has done. Well, they're not innocent actors here. And Donald Trump is just some great threat to democracy.
I don't think Tony was saying that the left were innocent actors. He's just saying that if the shoe or the election fraud was on the other foot, how would the Republicans interpret these same actions? If
trying to bring up the fact that they did rig the election.
Wait, help me understand that. What?
Right. So you go back to, and this gets us back into our conversation about how the left rigs elections. Do they sit there and adjust the little scoreboard, right? So imagine a football game. You put someone up in the scoreboard. Oh, you get, now that they just randomly get 7 more points than they did before. Or do you adjust the entire laws so that the game plays in your favor? That's what the left has done with elections. And conservatives are trying to point that out and trying to, stop this type of ballot harvesting.
But the rule changes don't, in fact, say, well, only Democrats can do this and Republicans can't. It is a level playing field. Both parties are allowed to do the same thing.
I would disagree with you that it's a level playing field.
Why? Are they not? Are both sides not allowed to do the same things?
Because conservatives have finally figured that out.
No, but that's my answer.
And so now they are. They're going to play the same way that the other team has played. But if your team, let's go back to the football. Your team is excellent at passing, does great job passing, and you rig the law to where the game favors a passing team, and the other team finally figures that out after 2 or 3 seasons and goes, we need to get better at passing. This is ballot harvesting. All right. This is the other conservatives finally figured out, and to Charlie Kirk's credit, that we need to ballot harvest. We're way over time.
We are. 2 words. Derrick Henry. When we go to the NFL example, because the NFL is a passing league right now. Derrick Henry. When he was in his prime playing with the Titans, they were a run-first team.
Yes.
So again, that you can get situations where you can go against the direction they were having as far as how the game is being rigged for the passing offenses in the NFL. You still can do it the other way and win. And the Titans did. They didn't capture a Super Bowl, but they did win, and they won well. So it's not necessarily just that. But the issue being, as long as the rules apply to both sides, it's not rigging. You can be as mad as you want about a change in the rules. Well, that's on you if you don't want to play by the rules. That's on you.
I think
not on anybody else.
I think you're being too kind to the way Democrats operate in campaigns.
I've been in a lot of competitive sports where the rules change, and you go, well, this sucks, but we got to adjust to it. And now we play by those rules, not the rules that I want to play by. They didn't let me vote, so that's it.
All right, we're gonna get to your calls and texts, and I have a whole nother story I want to cover. And we've got Blake coming up at the top with news, so we'll get into all of this. It's been quite a morning on the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, it's been a fun morning. Everything from Trump's bloodbath comments to Liz Cheney and Trump calling for her to be in jail. I don't want you to miss this story because this is going to be important. This is local to Colorado. The Denver Post had it over the weekend. Park Service is replacing actors with a more traditional museum approach.
Because that's super exciting.
I know. My kids are like, you know what I'd love to do is go read signs.
Yeah. Can I stand there and just read signs?
Dude, this drove me crazy reading this article. Did you get through the whole article?
I didn't get through.
With the consultants?
I got too mad.
I know.
I couldn't get all the way through.
If there's not a better example of how consultants can ruin something than this story here. A federal overhaul of Bent's Old Fort National Historic Site, a reconstructed 1833 fur trading outpost, has set off a storm as living history actors are pushed aside in favor of, quote, a more traditional museum approach, unquote.
Yeah, so what we're talking about are those people that dress up in character. And as you wander around, as you take the kids on the field trips, they explore what's going on at the Bent Fort, and they interact with people who pretend to be from that era. And they ask them questions. And instead, they want your kids to go there, look at signs, maybe sit in some sort of a large lecture hall in a presentation, and if we're really lucky, a film, because that works great.
And it's all because the National Park Service hired consultants who I think were based in Texas. And they came up with this report that basically said, there's potential problems you may have because you can't control everything a reenactor says. It just reminds me of like all those movies like Office Space and they bring in the consultants, and because of some potential, they can't even name a threat.
No.
They can't even like point to any problem.
Yeah, what would they say? And that's why we should go back to owning people. I mean, what are they going to say? Seriously, what do you think they're going to say there? And this is why cannibalism is a great idea, kids. What's going to go on here? Seriously.
Now, if you walk into the fort, there's a bunch of signs. How does this convey the idea of what life was like? Said John Carson, 67 years old. I'm trying to get him on the show. I love it. If anybody knows John Carson, he's a retired history teacher and great grandson of the frontiersman Kit Carson. I love to have him on the show.
Yeah.
National Park Service officials began reining back, quote, living history last fall, shifting towards a museum-like presentation that relies more on signs. An NPS consultants report advised site managers to, quote, regain control, unquote, over the mostly volunteer history actors and their elaborate programs.
Yes, we need control because
goodness.
The one thing that all teachers will tell you is that the way the kids learn best is if you just make them read something or stand in front of them talking. Don't have them actually experience or involve them with their own learning. No. You don't want them to operationalize it. You don't want them to get it tangible. You don't want them to actually use it. You should just tell them about it and then hope for the best, because that's absolutely how everybody learns, you morons.
I mean, you're going to end up with nobody attending these places.
And for good reason, because they're going to suck. It's going to be awful. And you're going to be doing it. Yes, I know. And exactly. Because you know what happens? Let's go to places where, people, the most magical place on earth, Disney. What they have are people walking around reading signs. They don't have character actors wander around and experience with the people in the lines and the crowds. No. They don't have experiences. You can sign up where your kids go to breakfast with some of the princesses. No, don't do that. No, they don't involve the kids in the characters, do they? No.
You go to Disneyland to read signs.
Yes, they come up and they hold a placard and say, this is Cinderella. Read below about her story. And that's it. That's exactly what they do.
So the reenactors that are down at Bent's Fort are recommending, they're pushing back on this because they're volunteers. And what they think should happen is, and they're getting older, right? Yeah. This is, a lot of organizations face this problem.
Yeah, I'm facing that problem.
So what they recommend was that, let's train the next generation to be actors. Let's actually involve them in the process. Yeah. You could go around, you can learn, and you could find, if you're Native American, you can connect with other Native American reenactors and pass on this legacy and find, esteem in it.
Yeah,
and joy in it.
And you can find people that are at that front end of their acting career that would do this. You can find people. There are wonderful storytelling groups in and around Denver that are magical. When they open their mouths, they start to tell you they could do something special there. That's the idea, is lean into it. We have a friend of mine, actually a friend of the show, Casey Boyer. His daughter, his oldest daughter, is a performer out of Casa Bonita. She's one of like the gypsies that wanders around and does the songs and stuff. Bethany, she's fantastic. She's just amazing. But and that's the idea, is she's using that acting technique to go, and now she's making money with it. But if you gave her an opportunity, I'm sure someone like her, an opportunity on a weekend to go and cut your teeth doing some more character acting and talking to kids, come on.
So my very favorite restaurant all time is the Fort, which is a replica of Bent's Fort.
Yeah.
And they have reenactors, or not reenactors, they have actual Native Americans that wander from table to table. It's a great experience. This is just another example of consultants.
My favorite, Chuck E. Cheese. Because there's a reason it has a liquor license. I'm just kidding.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes to kickstart your day. Denver is finally thawing out. We're off and running. I mean, this has been a remarkable show. A lot of calls and a lot of text messages, engaging discussion, critical analysis, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So let's grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues matter most to you right here, right now. Great text messages, by the way. We were just covering at the top of that last hour. Denver Post article about how Bent's Fort down south here in Colorado is moving away from its reenactors, believing that museum signs are better than being able to walk around and watch people from history and from the past kind of live their lives and learn from them. And this is all due to a consultant's report that I guess identified threats, because I guess someone might say something politically incorrect, or you may not have somebody of the right race serving and recreating, you know, what that was like, and, you know, all that politically correct stuff. Great text from Jeff in Littleton, Alaska. Consultants are people that can expertly tell you how to make love, yet are virgins.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the worst things in the world, and I have friends that do this, are radio consultants, because there's certain things, because if they don't come in and tell you something's wrong, that you don't pay them. So they're like, well, I don't have any ideas. So they have to invent something. Something has to be wrong. Yeah, it's kind of silly.
Yeah. So just disappointing. I think there's a lot of pushback happening down in southern Colorado in this, and I think hopefully that'll change. I've never been to Bent's Fort. I don't know. Have you ever been up there, Bill? Bent's Fort, have you been there?
It's been a number of years
down there.
Hang on a second, Deborah.
No, sorry, I didn't realize you were on the call.
It's okay. Deborah says hi though. She says hi, Jeff.
Deborah Flora?
No, different Deborah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. She says she loves you and dislikes me quite a bit. Yeah. So we're gonna continue the conversation.
The text, you know, it's about 50-50 text messages and calls there. We'll get to your calls and texts. We're gonna switch here a little bit to get into Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu's response to Chuck Schumer and all that's happening down at the Capitol on this. Joining us on the show is going to be Joshua Sharf. Joshua is a member of the Independence Insitute. He's a fellow over there in Independence Insitute, travels to Israel regularly. We'll get some insight on him in just a second, but let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. 35 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the case over whether federal officials violated the First Amendment when they urged social media platforms to remove false or misleading posts headed to the Supreme Court, is going to happen today. The case stems from attempts by the Biden administration to curb COVID misinformation. Some Republicans have argued it was a violation of the First Amendment, and now the Supreme Court will take up the case.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
Former President Trump slamming Democrats and the media for their interpretation of comments he made over the weekend during a rally in Ohio. Trump sparked controversy after saying there will be a bloodbath if he loses the election in November. But the former president, in a post on Truth Social this morning, argued his words were purposely taken out of context, as he was clearly talking about the auto industry in Mexico being decimated if President Biden and the auto industry here in America decimated if they continue to build cars in Mexico. China does, if he doesn't win re-election. Now, speaking of Mexico, the real issue.
When I'm president of the United States, we will demand justice for Laken. On day one, my administration will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, larger than that by far of Dwight Eisenhower.
Trump speaking over the weekend. Aurora police say a suspect fleeing from a scene. Let me turn this one off here. My goodness. goodness. Fleeing from the scene of a carjacking Sunday night caused a deadly crash. The initial armed carjacking was reported near Stanley Marketplace at 23rd Avenue and Dallas Street, and officers spotted the stolen vehicle as it sped away. They tried to stop the suspect, but he ended up crashing into another vehicle near Dayton and 19th Avenue, killing one person. The suspect was arrested. 2 people were found dead, a man and a woman, in a Denver hotel shelter Saturday night. Police investigated the case as a homicide, and the hotel shelter on North Quebec Street, where they found the man and woman, reportedly part of Mayor Johnston's House 1,000 initiative. Authorities say the mayor is aware of the situation. There's no word yet on any suspects or arrests. The trial of a semi-truck driver accused of killing a family of 5 in Weld County 2 years ago starts today. Authorities say Jesus Puebla didn't have a valid commercial driver's license and was going 76 miles per hour, even though traffic had slowed on I-25. It's 31 in Lakewood, 33 in Centennial, 35 in Denver, and I have to play this because Jeff and Bill were talking about consultants.
What would you say you do here? Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
That's one of the best of all time.
It's the greatest. It's my favorite scene of all time. I had to play it for you. CU and CSU in the tournament, 68 field, in the field of 68. The first 4 they will play tomorrow night. CSU takes on Virginia, and CU will take on, who do they take on? I can't even remember. They play on Wednesday. CU Lady Buffs, the 5th seed in the tournament. That's all for now. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, this weekend, Benjamin Netanyahu describes Schumer's comments calling for elections as totally inappropriate. What is he talking about? Well, here's Chuck Schumer late last week on the floor of the U.S. Senate.
4th major obstacle to peace is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take the precedence over the best interests of Israel. He has put himself in coalition with far-right extremists like Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, and as a result, he has been too willing to tolerate the civilian toll in Gaza, which is pushing support for Israel worldwide to historic lows. Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah. At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel.
Chuck Schumer calling for American election interference in Israel, but it gets worse. You may have noticed there he said step 4 on how to bring about peace. Here are the first 3, and you won't believe how Chuck Schumer connects Benjamin Netanyahu to the Hamas terrorists.
We cannot let anger or trauma determine our actions or cloud our judgment. A 2-state solution may feel daunting, especially now, but I believe it is the only realistic and sustainable solution on the basis of security, on the basis of prosperity, on the basis of fundamental human rights and dignity. But in order to achieve a 2-state solution, The reality is that things must change. Right now, there are four major obstacles standing in the way of two states. And until they are removed from the equation, there will never be peace in Israel and Gaza and the West Bank. The four major obstacles are Hamas and the Palestinians who support and tolerate their evil ways, radical right-wing Israelis in government and society, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
So he equates Benjamin Netanyahu to the Hamas terrorists as four parts that are preventing peace in the Middle East. Netanyahu.
I'm impressed he got to four, because as soon as he said four, I'm like, ooh, Chuck, that's a high number for you. That's I got to see this here. But at least he had notes. Yeah.
Benjamin Netanyahu joining the Sunday shows to respond. Here he is.
I think what he said is totally inappropriate. It's inappropriate for to go to a sister democracy and try to replace the elected leadership there. That's something that the Israeli public does on its own, and we're not a banana republic. I think the only government that we should be working on to bring down now is the terrorist tyranny in Gaza, the Hamas tyranny that murdered over 1,000 Israelis, including some dozens of Americans, and is holding Americans and Israelis hostage. That's what we should be focused on. And as far as what Senator Schumer said, the majority of Israelis support our governments. 82% of Americans support Israel instead of Hamas, but the majority of Israelis support the policies that we're leading. Go into Rafah, destroy the remaining Hamas terrorist battalions, make sure that we don't put into Gaza, instead of Hamas, the Palestinian Authority that educates their children towards terrorism and the annihilation of Israel, and also an enormous majority here, including 99 Knesset members to 9, oppose the idea of ramming down a Palestinian state down our throats.
I want to get to some
the
of those
majority of
polls
Israelis, this is
in
a
a
wake-up
minute.
call to Senator Schumer. The majority of Israelis support the policies of my government. It's not a fringe government. It represents the policies supported by the majority of the people. If Senator Schumer opposes these policies, he's not opposing me. He's opposing the people of Israel.
That's Benjamin Netanyahu responding to Chuck Schumer's comments, calling for a new election in Israel and equating Benjamin Netanyahu to Hamas in preventing a two-state solution. Joining us on the VIP line is Joshua Sharf, a fellow with the Independence Insitute and frequent traveler to Israel, to give us some feedback on this. I would call it a spat taking place between Chuck Schumer and Benjamin Netanyahu. What are your thoughts on this? Joshua Sharf, thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on. It's I wouldn't say frequent traveler, I would say recent traveler. I mean, it's good to see that Chuck Schumer, as Israel is fighting really an existential war on several fronts, has kept focus on what's truly important, which is dislodging Netanyahu.
Nice shot. That's good.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is not new, by the way. This is, him making a speech on the Senate floor is new, but the administration, I mean, he's clearly doing this in support of the administration's foreign policy. And the administration was, I think, fairly clearly involved in, even as far back as last year, before October 7th, in helping to stoke and organize and keep going the anti-government. When I say anti-government, I don't mean revolutionary in that sense, but simply in opposition demonstrations opposing the judicial reforms that then took on a life of their own and became about much more than just the judicial reforms.
Now, Joshua, if I can interrupt, Joshua, interrupt just for a sec. I love the idea you talked about how what Schumer said was absolutely connected to the White House. What do you think it says that, in my opinion, Biden had Schumer carry his water for him, because it keeps this statement at an arm's length, but we saw that the White House didn't deny it. In fact, told Chuck that he did a good job.
Yeah, no, let me just finish the other thought. Netanyahu has long been a bête noire of the American left. And the Israeli left doesn't like him too much either. But in terms of foreign policy, it's clear that he's right. He represents the bulk. People's problems, they don't like the foreign policy, is not with, It's not with Netanyahu. It's with the choices that the Israeli public has made. And I think the administration, you're right, didn't want to come out and say that explicitly. Although they have, Biden himself has become increasingly personally critical of Netanyahu. The comment, the off mic comment about how he needed a of all the phrases to use, right? He needed a come to Jesus moment with where Biden was gonna tell him what's what. And so this was really, I think, a way of having the statement out there. You're right, without having to personally say it themselves. But I don't think it's any secret that the administration really just personally dislikes him a lot, and that this goes back to the Obama administration. This is nothing new on that side of the aisle, but in the face of an ongoing difficult war, it's become much more intense. I mean, I don't think there's much in what Schumer said that's correct, by the way. Obviously.
Yeah. Can we talk about the two-state solution? Who believes that's still an option out there? I don't.
Well, the Israelis certainly don't. I mean,
Right.
they basically, they gave up on the two-state solution back in, I think, essentially back in 2000, when Arafat was offered something like 99% of what he wanted, what he said he wanted, and went home and said no, turned over the table and started a war, which was the second Intifada, and it ended up killing well over 1,000 Israelis over the course of, not in one day like Hamas did, but over the course of a number of years. And that's what led to the Ariel Sharon's policy, in essence, of disengagement, where he began to build that border fence between Israel and the Palestinian areas of the West Bank. It would have probably have left some smaller settlements on the other side if it had been completed. And it was something, listen, you say you want a state. Okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to build a fence, and we're not giving in to you. We're giving up on you. You take what's on that side of the fence. We're going to take what's on this side of the fence. You don't like it. That's unfortunate. You had your chance. And I think it would have been an interesting experiment had he been able to complete it. But he was struck down by I think it was a stroke, a fairly nasty stroke that put him in a coma before he eventually passed away. But the Israelis had basically given up on a two-state solution long ago. I think they would like to see some evidence that whatever became of the Palestinian state wouldn't just turn into what they saw out of Hamas. Wouldn't just turn into a launching pad for more wars. And of course, what Schumer didn't mention, he talks about the obstacles to peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but it narrows it down too far. Iran is who we're fighting there. And I don't mean we Israelis. I'm an American.
Right.
I mean we, the U.S.
Right. Western civilization.
On many fronts, Hezbollah is sending rockets, sending missiles and rockets into Israel's north every day. And that there's an ongoing, say, tit for tat, but it's really more than that going on every day. Obviously, Iran has been funding Hamas, and they've been the ones supplying the missiles to the Houthis, who have essentially shut down the Suez Canal and rerouted ocean traffic around Cape Horn. And don't think, by the way, that that's safe necessarily either. South Africans are at this point basically a Russian client state, and don't think that they couldn't threaten shipping going around the Cape if they decided to do it, or Venezuela, which is also tied up with Russia and Iran, and in a position to do serious damage to shipping going through the Panama Canal. So the administration, they don't want to talk about Iran, but that's really the major force pushing things in that region, and they would prefer to talk about, they basically would like to pretend that October 7th never happened, and then you just sort of go back to October 6th, and Israel is not going to do that.
How many hostages are still remaining? By the way, we're talking with Joshua Sharf, who's a fellow at the Independence Institute. How many Israeli hostages remain captured by Hamas?
It's hard to tell. That's part of the reason that the negotiations have not gone anywhere, because Hamas claims with mathematical certainty to know how many civilian casualties there have been, and claims to have absolutely no idea how many hostages are still around or where they are.
Oh, Josh, can I interrupt over there about the the casualties that Hamas is reporting, the Palestinians are reporting. Have you seen the bar graph and the line graph?
Right.
Because
it's a perfect growth
yeah, it's
number.
a perfect growth. The increase every day is almost
statistically
yeah,
perfect.
Exactly. It couldn't happen that way. That you never get a straight line of a graph going up, but that's how they've drawn it. I just looked at that and went, oh, come on, at least try a little bit harder with your BS. I mean, just a little bit more.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, given the state of reporting in this country, they don't actually have to try all that hard. But
Nice shot.
So in terms of the hostages, it's almost certainly fewer than 100 are left. In terms of the, because there had been 134, I believe there have been a number since then, a number who have been confirmed, some are in the 30s who have been confirmed murdered. So I think that's what we're looking at. In terms of the casualty numbers, it's not just that it's a straight line every day. It's that there's the guy who did this is a math professor, a statistics professor, I think, at University of Pennsylvania. And he looked at the reporting every day of the casualty numbers, and he also did something interesting. He said, well, is there a correlation between, say, women and children? Because you would expect if you hit a civilian target that there would be, there'd be more women than children there. There would be some daily correlation between the number of women killed and the number of children killed. And so there's none. It's like it's not quite a negative correlation, but there's almost no correlation there. And there's almost also no correlation between the number of women killed and the number of men killed. So what that means in essence, what explains all of this is that they picked a number. They said, this is how many we're going to say are killed every day. We're going to throw dice, we're going to, and decide how many of these are men, how many of these are women, and how many of these are children, and make sure they add up to that number. And clearly they bear no particular relationship to reality, but they're reported. And then you have, Biden repeating this number, saying, well, we can't have another 30,000 civilian casualties, as though that number had any credence at all. But of course, the president repeating it gives it credence.
Talking with Joshua Sharf, a fellow with the Independence Institute, his response to the war of words that took place between Chuck Schumer this last week on the floor of the Senate. In my mind, equating Netanyahu as equally culpable to the problems in the Middle East as Hamas, who is attacking, raping, murdering innocent civilians. I thought that was completely uncalled for. Joshua, help me understand. Chuck Schumer's Jewish here. Why not the focus on what Hamas is doing, the hostages there, the murdering of innocent civilians? Why is he so focused on Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Well, because that's the party line, and no enemies to the left, and that's the party line, and that's the administration foreign policy, and that's where he's going to be. There was, and it wouldn't be such a big, and I would normally might wave a little bit of a flag at saying Schumer's Jewish, but the fact is he's played on that. So for him then to turn around and behave this way, he deserves whatever criticism he gets, because he has, so, well, the Schumer, my name comes from Schumer, which means guardian. It was a guardian of our people, guardian of his, and he's made a big deal. He was one of the 4 leadership members who spoke at the big rally back in November in Washington. And so, he's played on that. And so for now, him to get criticism on that basis is entirely appropriate. And he's simply going along with the administration. As I say, I think what's remarkable here is between the spokesman saying, well, we haven't seen a credible plan for evacuating civilians out of Rafah, therefore we can't support, we're going to set the conditions by which Israel will be allowed to finish off Hamas. And Schumer saying, well, we need new elections. They're giving Israel less sovereignty than any U.S. state. Schumer would never have any position to call for, new elections in Colorado. There's no stuff, but let's go ahead and decide that, this country that's a sovereign country has, we can tell them that it's time to change governments. And people will say, well, we have issues with allies all the time. And that's true. I don't know that, this goes back a ways, but Charles de Gaulle was, easily as irritated. That's not going to be a pain in the pain in the butt. There's no question about that. But de Gaulle was 4 times the pain in the butt that Netanyahu is. And as irritating, as troubling as he was, I mean, he practically called for a free Quebec back in the 60s. I mean, it was a big deal when he did that. Nobody said, well, France needs to get rid of him. It was an understanding that he was the elected leader of France, and we had to deal with him. To me, this is just it's astonishing that they treat an allied sovereign country as though it had no prerogatives beyond what the White House decided it had.
It really is amazing. Talking with Joshua Sharf, fellow at the Independence Institute. Let's pivot a little bit on Rafah. It looks like Benjamin Netanyahu is planning, let me say that correctly, Benjamin Netanyahu is planning to engage in Rafah. It's going to take several weeks for this operation. Give us your perspective on this.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to happen, and one hopes that it's not merely posturing for like the negotiations in Qatar, but it looks like that's actually going to happen. One of the ways in which, and we'll see. I mean, Israel seems to think it has a way of allowing civilians out in such a way that even if Hamas fighters go out with them, that they're not going to take anything with them. We've seen this would probably require some reinforcement in the north. Right, because if people go, there's still stuff in the north. What they've been trying to do is simultaneously with bottling up Hamas in Khan Yunis and which is sort of in south central Gaza, and Rafah, which is right on the border with Egypt. What they've been trying to do is blow up as many of the tunnels as they can up north and destroy as much of the infrastructure up there. So even if they go back, they don't have anything to go back to. And that's important. So anybody who escapes, it doesn't have anything to fight with. And so that's also partly, I think, why they've taken their time on this. But I think they have a sense that they may not get as much resupply as they would like, and so they're probably pulling the trigger a little. They're trying to pull the trigger a little faster on this. And get this done. One of the things that they've been very good about, I mean, let's assume for a moment that you're looking that their numbers up, say about, what do they say, about 13,000 Hamas fighters have been killed. You're looking at, because of the air dominance, they have kill ratios in the area of something like 30-1, and so there's a sense, I think, that they've perfected, as well as can be perfected, tactics in coordination, but in essence, using the Air Force as artillery. And calling in airstrikes whenever they even have a confrontation with fighters. That the number of fighters killed by ground forces is relatively low. The number killed using the Air Force is overwhelming, and Hamas simply has no answer for that. So.
Now, Josh,
that's good news.
Yeah, that is.
Got
a question for you about response from McConnell to Schumer's speech. McConnell did come out and say it's wrong, but in my opinion, where I was sitting, it wasn't very forceful. He basically just said, well, Israel should be allowed to choose their government. He didn't pound either Schumer or the Biden administration as much as I thought he was going to. What was your impression?
Yeah, I'm just not sure that he's. Listen, I think he may have felt that there was enough backlash already, even among some Democrats, and certainly among Jewish Democrats, that Schumer had gone too far, that his piling on might be counterproductive. Obviously, Republicans already objected to what Schumer said, so it wasn't necessarily, he didn't necessarily need to lead into battle on this one. That Schumer had done himself enough damage, and that anything more forceful might have swung some Democrats sort of reactionally to back to Schumer's side. And it's just in a situation like that, maybe the less said the better. So I had to come out with a statement, but there's no need to to make himself the focus of this. Leave the focus on the guy who was damaging himself.
Joshua Sharf, fellow with the Independence Institute, observer of all things Israel. Thanks so much for giving us some perspective on this Chuck Schumer, Benjamin Netanyahu thing that developed over the weekend. I really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. And thank you for having me on.
We're going to continue to pray for the peace of Israel and Jerusalem and track this. We're going to have some other guests on later this week to give us some updates on what's happening there. This thing only ends when Hamas is gone, in my opinion. There is no two-state solution. When you saw what Hamas has done to innocent Israelis, right? This is not an attack on military outposts. This was innocent little boys and girls, devastating things, horrific things done to them. That ideology, the people that espouse that ideology need to be wiped off the face of this earth. And I'll say it. So,
well, here and the thing that, and we should maybe continue the discussion after the break here. But the question I have there is, can we get the Arab world on board to peace in that area without a Palestinian state? If we just say, no Palestinian state ever, we'll never agree to it, but you got to stop messing with Israel. Can we get the Arab world to the table? Because they have to. Otherwise, this isn't going to stop.
Yeah, great point. All right, 58 and sunny today, 62 tomorrow, 63 on Wednesday, 65 on Thursday. It's going to be a beautiful week. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented, non-prescription, natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by a patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. Give UltraCur a try, because it gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Your calls and texts on this issue. When we return, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. One person has died and 2 hospitalized after an active shooter situation in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. The suspected shooter remains on the run, with authorities issuing a shelter-in-place order for the city's downtown and bar district, as well as the beachfront. Meanwhile, a separate shooting happened in Washington, D.C. early Sunday morning, with 2 killed and 5 injured. Law enforcement are searching for the assailant, who escaped on foot. President Vladimir Putin has won a record landslide in Russia's presidential election on Sunday, where there were no real challenges to his continued rule. According to an exit poll, he won 87.8% of the vote, the highest ever result in Russia's post-Soviet history. Megumi Lim has more from Kyiv.
President Putin is set to embark on another 6-year term, which, if completed, would make him the longest-serving Russian leader in more than 200 years. War hung over the 3-day election, where Ukraine repeatedly attacked oil refineries in Russia and proxy forces mounted cross-border incursions. Ukraine's President Zelensky criticized the election and said Putin would, quote, stop at nothing to rule forever.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Just wrapped up a great interview with Joshua Sharf, a fellow at the Independence Institute, responding to Chuck Schumer and Benjamin Netanyahu trading words over the weekend. Chuck Schumer essentially putting Benjamin Netanyahu on the same level as Hamas as to the reason we don't have peace in the Middle East, which was just shocking. I mean, shocking to me.
Yeah, it was. I was super surprised because I didn't think that the administration was going to have this kind of a play. I think that I think Josh Sharf from the Independence Institute that joined us is absolutely right. This was with the blessing of the White House, but
100%.
with Chuck doing it, it gives them distance. The interesting part, though, is that
and another Jew.
Oh yeah. The interesting part of it is it's in the Senate, and so they picked someone that is in the in leadership role in one of our legislative bodies. So it is not the White House saying it, but it is White House adjacent. It is as close as you probably could get without getting the Secretary of Defense or anybody else in the White House involved. That's how close I view this. And I think the play is, I'm talking to one of the texters right now, I think one of the play for the Biden administration is they saw those uncommitted votes in the primary, and that's what this is about. This is about, hey, look, we're calling for this. It's not going to happen. They know it's not going to happen, but it allows that. Hey, look, we were trying
free Gaza component.
Exactly. That's who I think they're talking to. I don't think they're talking to the Israelis. I think they're talking to those disgruntled voters. But I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Bill, that is exactly right. That's high level thinking in a campaign strategy session.
That is not a sentence I ever expected to come out of your mouth directed towards me. We're good friends, but never know. No, I got wow. Okay, now I know
that was good.
Oh,
that was exactly right. I'd love to hear.
I'd
love to hear from our listeners. Do you agree with Chuck Schumer that Benjamin Netanyahu is a serious problem to peace in the Middle East? Do you think that right-wing conservatives in Israel are one of the 4 reasons we cannot achieve peace in the Middle East?
No. Dumb. It's just dumb.
Give us a call. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Bill.
Yeah.
Is this the end of Coachella?
Oh,
Yahoo Entertainment thinks so.
Yeah, it could be. It really could be. And part of the story is that Coachella, the bloom has fallen off the rose. It is
help me understand the bloom in the first place. I am a country boy. The biggest festival I've ever thought about going to is Cheyenne Frontier Days.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a good one too. Though.
Right. Which I've never been to, but I go to maybe one concert. I'm not a festival guy. Help me understand what the bloom was in the first place.
You know who played Cheyenne Frontier Days last year? Five Finger Death Punch.
Bro, I don't even know who you're talking about.
Awesome. It was. I wanted to go so badly because I wanted to see them in that setting. But the reason is,
I feel so old when you do this.
Well, the reason is that Ivan Moody, who's actually from Denver, he's now living up there near Cheyenne. And so he wanted to do that to help the community. He's like, listen, I can bring in a lot of people. I understand it's not the country artist, but I can bring a lot of tickets and I can sell a ton of tickets if I perform during
music is Five Finger Death Punch?
Stuff that you will not like. They're modern rock. They're heavy.
Okay.
They're heavy. But if you want to listen to something that you may like, go check out their cover of Blue on Black, the Kenny Wayne Shepherd song from the 90s. Really, really good. And Kenny actually does the guitar solo in the middle. I could go on and on.
All right, so give me why there was a bloom on Coachella anyways.
Yeah. Well, the idea being that what you're taking all of these concerts that normally would go across the country back and forth, and you're bringing people to one location. Like Woodstock, where it's a series of days. And so you're able to, with one ticket, again, an expensive ticket, you're able to take in many more artists and bands than you would be in a singular event. Also, it becomes tourist. It becomes that event. You're there with a bunch of people, and you also get self-selection. So there are things that go on all day. So you can go around, you can check out bands that you do like and skip the ones you don't like. I've been to a number of festivals. If done properly, they can be a lot of fun. The problem is There's too many at this point, in my opinion. Yeah, there's way too many. And Coachella and South by Southwest were kind of the quirky ones outside of Burning Man. Burning Man is just the freaks. That's just freaks in the desert. That's okay. I love you, and I have friends that went there for years.
How many of those have you been to?
I have never been to, actually. None of them. I've never gone to Burning Man. Had friends that have. My brother's been to South by Southwest a number of times. He's asked me to go, and I've never made that journey with him. But I've been to Lollapalooza, I've been to Woodstock. Was it Woodstock 99? I've done a number of others. The Horde Festival, which is again so
what do you do? You just kind of walk around and listen to music? Oh, there's some bands over there. Yeah. There's some bands over here. Well, they've got a list,
so you know based on who's getting.
You're talking to Mike Pence, by the way. So explain it in Mike Pence language.
Yeah. Well, there's a playlist. And so you know the order of what the bands are going to do. You know that the first band is going to hit the stage at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then normally it's broken down about every hour and a half to 45 minutes, depending on what the stage time is. And so you just have the list. You know that this band performs first, and then this, and then this, and then finally at the end of the night, it's the big headliner. And the festival draws normally have been that headliner and sub-headliner, those last two bands of the night. And Coachella, I believe, has got, it's Lana Del Rey, Doja Cat. I don't remember who the other one is, but they're also doing.
I have never heard of
these
people.
And then they're also
No Doubt I've heard of.
Yeah, but they're working hard on that one. And so hang on a second, I get the phone calls.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of calls. I mean, so this article in Yahoo Entertainment, Daily Beast, is this the end of Coachella? Points out that Coachella did not release their artist list on time. It seemed to run a little bit late, so they're trying to figure out why. And then mostly they base their article off of the fact that in years past, the ticket sales sold out within hours. And in some cases, I think there's still some tickets available.
Yeah, there are. And that's part of it, is there are so many other competing festivals. There's, Lollapalooza still out there. I don't know if Lollapalooza is still doing it. But there are so many other great festivals, and they are beginning to hyper-focus. Originally, the Coachella was a larger umbrella where you would get, rock, and you'd get rap, and you'd get pop, and then you'd get EDM and dubstep. They'd all mix together, in the EDM and the dubsteps later on at night at separate locations. But it was kind of that one-stop shopping. It was a musical mall where you could wander around and see all sorts of different bands. And now you're finding these festivals getting to be more focused and more specialized. And I think that's part of the draw too, is that a draw away from Coachella is maybe I don't want to pay that exorbitant fee.
Like what is a ticket price?
Several $100s. In fact, there are some VIP things at Coachella that'll run you into the thousands, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And that will include VIP, that'll include special seating, that'll include sometimes even a place to stay type of a thing, certain luxury tents, because sometimes these deal with a lot of either hotel rooms or camping are also the venues. So the idea, though, is you just get to experience a ton of different bands. And so that's the draw. But when it gets so expensive...
Here's the other question I have for you. And we're up against some stuff we got to do here. But every year, there's like a series of articles that are like, did you know that Coachella is owned by a social conservative named Phil Anschutz? And it's like this just annual smackdown effort to try to, I don't know, go after a guy that doesn't buy into the crazy leftist sexual ethic.
The thing that I look at is sit there and say, he's a conservative and he makes lots of money, and the festival makes lots of money. I can see the motivation.
Right.
That's the idea. It's just like the Steve
He's
Mnuchin.
a businessman.
Yeah. It's like Mnuchin lining up and go, oh my TikTok. Oh my TikTok. It's the same thing. He knows it makes a lot of money.
Is this article the end of Coachella just another one of those where they're just kind of like, let's beat up on him a little bit this year?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think more of it is, and I think I read the article, and I think the person missed kind of the point that it has a lot more to do with competition out there than it has to do with other things. And then also, some of these things have gotten really, really expensive. Like one of the blowback to all the freaks in the Burning Man in the desert is that it's become uber expensive because it's all about the Instagram. It's not actually about being crazy as it used to be years ago in the desert. It's more about going there, and you got to have the right outfits, and then you get to speak, and you put it on your Instagram and your social media feed to say, look, I'm here. And it's become more of a performance of the attendees than a performance about the people that are there. And I have one friend that's like, I'll never go back. And he's hardcore. I mean, for years would go there and put, Yeah, whatever pharmaceuticals or anything else that may be natural into his body at the time.
If you asked
not my
me,
choice,
if you
but that's it.
told me I was going to have to put myself in the desert
Yeah.
with a bunch of libs on drugs and I couldn't, that is the description of hell to me. Like burning, like you could not, you would have to pay me a large fortune of money. And maybe Salem, that would be something. Send Jeff to Burning Man and let him cover it. I feel like I'd be like Matt Walsh there. Matt Walsh and Jeff Hunt go to Burning Man and
That
can't
would be
deal
hilarious.
with
In fact, if they sent us there, you know what we'd have to do? You and I would every day, we would have to choose outfits. And we would have to dress exactly opposite. Because, they have the weird outfits. But we'd go the
like
other way.
little Speedos
yeah.
and stuff.
See,
I don't.
We'd go the other way. Every day, it'd be some sort of like a suit outfit. So we'd start off. Or if we did it right, we would start out in a full suit on day one, and then slowly it would change. Like the first day, it'd be suit. Next day, it's suit, but we've cut our pants are now cutoffs. And the next day, one of the sleeves is gone, or one of the jackets. We just slowly, we slowly absorb into the culture and see if they catch up.
Jeff Hunt, Bill Thorpe,
yeah,
Matt Walsh, and Ben Shapiro to Burning Man, and just let us deal with.
And then
the
by the
hell
end,
that would be.
And by the end of the festival, it's you and I doing our best Robert Downey Jr. impression from Natural Born Killers, where we're there with this, we got our tie around our head and we're just screaming. Yeah, it's this evolution.
All right. You'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Y'all on the text messages are making it even more fun for me. Let's take Jeff to a widespread panic show or fish.
That would be
oh
funny.
my goodness.
That would be funny. You know what would scare you? Let's go to an insane clown posse show. I've been there.
You know, I went to a Guar show,
Ooh,
a Marilyn
that's
Manson
interesting.
show. I've been to a number of fish shows
Yeah.
back in my previous life. I became a born again believer when I was 16, but prior to that, I was a Stone Jeff wandering around at 14 years old at fish shows.
Oh man, and Guar too, and Manson.
I know.
Interesting.
I know, but it's so funny. I've become such a Mike Pence, Billy Graham that I just stand awkwardly at these events. I used to go to these. I absolutely used to go to fish.
Yeah.
I never went to Widespread Panic or String Cheese Incident, but
they're good. Panic's good. I
man,
I like Panic better than I like Fish, and I like Dave Matthews better than I like both of those.
See, you're into the music. I'm just kind of like a people watcher, and I'm like, these people are so weird.
Oh yeah,
They're so weird. They're stoned out of their minds, and they're.
Wait till you see the Slayer fans. Ever see the Slayer fans? Oh, that's like releasing the gates of Mordor in Lord of the Rings. Like, release the orcs. And I mean, I love you, Slayer fans.
I'm very
but,
happy at a Keith Urban concert or Dierks Bentley. Just join my, Coors Light and country music and all that fun stuff. I can go to rodeo all day. Rodeo's where I'm happy. That's my happy place.
I'll tell you, Metallica, Five Finger Death Punch, stuff like that.
Just making it worse.
Oh,
I feel
so good.
I feel uneasy just talking about it. All right. Well, we got a whole week. We're going to be covering the hottest issues, the best analysis happening right here on the Jeff and Bill Show. Up next, Charlie Kirk. You've been listening to Jeff and Bill.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a good day.